Chapter 396. Planet Boo was vast and sparsely populated. Many places were dry with little rain. Although there were places with frequent storms, there were also places with few storms. It was also very convenient to conduct flight experiments here. However, Planet Boo didn't have any energy or deposits. This was also the reason why Spaceflight General Headquarters had always considered Planet Boo as a candidate but hadn't made a decision. Now that there was a preference for a location, it was probably because of the Alcade. However, Spaceflight General Headquarters had yet to make a formal decision. Every day, there would be people inspecting various locations. Flemington hadn't sensed it because they were secretive and didn't make it clear. Although Feng Zhao had heard Spaceflight General Headquarters' private conversations, he wouldn't say it out loud. In the next few days, Feng Zhao, Zaro, and the others followed the director's arrangements to film the program. Filming was rather easy. Zaro felt that Feng Zhao was really an anomaly. He didn't even know how to rest. While they were sleeping, Feng Zhao was writing his thesis. While they were playing and digging, Feng Zhao was composing. While they were racing outside, Feng Zhao was reading. While they were playing cards, Feng Zhao was doing homework. To prevent Feng Zhao from relaxing, Mo Lang assigned a lot of homework and recommended over 10 books for Feng Zhao to read. Therefore, apart from filming, Feng Zhao still had a lot of work to do. Zaro sympathized with Feng Zhao. How pitiful! Even on a foreign planet, he can't avoid homework. Midasi empathized. After all, he is still in advanced studies. The tests for advanced studies are homework, works, and theses. If he can't produce anything, he won't be able to get his graduation certificate. He might even be kicked out of the advanced studies. Back when he had been a professional tennis player, he would receive calls from his coach when he was on vacation, urging him to practice every day. Flemington had gathered a few people to discuss the issue of the bounty. Zaro had been fighting for his share of the bounty, and the reason he had given was very sufficient. If I hadn't entered the cast, there wouldn't have been Barbara and Wu Tianhao, and Midasi wouldn't have been tricked. The program team wouldn't have wanted to do something big and wouldn't have sought out a poor base like Planet Boo for cooperation. Boo Base wouldn't have willfully contacted Feng Zhao. This way, Feng Zhao wouldn't have entered the cast and wouldn't have heard the Alcade's stuttering signal. Also, I was the one who dug out that metal fragment with Ingeda. Barbara and Wu Tianhao were on Zaro's side this time. They clearly knew that they wouldn't get much money even if they succeeded. Why were they so insistent? The discovery of the Alcade should be recorded in the textbooks. Very soon, the new edition of textbooks would introduce the Alcade, stating that it was discovered by so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. They didn't want to be that waiting. What the few of them meant was, we will still donate, and we will not miss a single brick of the things we promised to donate. But we must have a share in this bounty, and our names must be added to the published news and authoritative reports. Flemington wasn't willing, so Feng Zhao had a chat with Flemington. The second time they had discussed the distribution of the bounty, Flemington had agreed to give Zaro and the others a little something. When collecting the bounty, he would ask them to sign on the bounty confirmation form and allow them to take pictures together. The money they received wasn't much for those who came from super rich families, but they were very satisfied. When they were in a good mood, they even agreed to donate more. The Interplanetary Fund and the Spaceflight General Headquarters were very efficient. After the Alcade was unearthed, the big shots of the Interplanetary Fund had personally arrived. However, all unrelated personnel had been quarantined, and the program team personnel had been confined to their rooms, so they couldn't see what was happening. When the program team personnel came out again, most of the Interplanetary Fund personnel had already left. It was said that they had left with the black box on the spacecraft. The sound that Feng Zhao had heard previously had been heard again during the excavation of the Alcade. This time, it had been 7 days apart, and it had also lasted for 12 hours. It was a very regular signal. After the Interplanetary Fund had taken the black box away, Feng Zhao hadn't heard that sound again. As for the Alcade that had been left behind, because it wasn't convenient to take the spacecraft away, it had been left here temporarily. The people from the Spaceflight General Headquarters had said that it might be dismantled in the future and placed in a newly constructed memorial hall, so that it wouldn't be exposed to the sandstorms. The core technology of the Alcade had been taken away by the Interplanetary Fund, and what was left here was just an empty shell. But even so, this was still a rather rare experience for many people. The program team director had some ideas and sought out the Interplanetary Fund and the Spaceflight General Headquarters for a long time before obtaining the filming permit. However, there was a time limit, and they could only shoot one episode. One episode, so be it. The director was already very satisfied. This was also a gimmick. With a filming permit in hand, the director suddenly felt that his style had been elevated. In the past, he had only eaten vegetables. Now, he was suddenly eating abalone and sea cucumber. He still wasn't used to it. After being unreasonable for a while, the director became excited again and gathered the personnel to prepare for filming. How many variety show directors had the privilege of filming a show inside the Dream Team spaceship? That was the only one. Elsewhere, although the Interplanetary Fund had left, they had left some people behind to take care of the remaining work, including the matter of the reward. This time, a few authoritative media outlets also came over to take pictures. Flemington led Feng Zhao, Zaro, and the others through the relevant procedures and signed in the confirmation area at the back of the reward form. The first signature was from Feng Zhao, and no one had any objections. The second signature was from Bu Base's representative, Commander Flemington, and no one had any objections either. The order of signature was decided by drawing lots. Barbara, Midasi, Wu Tianhao, and Zaro. Even if Zaro wasn't happy about being the last, he couldn't do anything about it. Who asked his luck to be so bad? Ahem, I heard that people have to wear masks when they receive the prize. Are we going to wear masks for the photo shoot later? Midasi asked. Zaro looked at Midasi with a, "Are you stupid" expression. The right to show one's face was snatched and he still had to wear a mask? Midasi was just joking. With their status, there was really no need to hide it. During the photo shoot, Feng Zhao carried curly hair and stood in the middle with Flemington in the middle. Zaro and the other three stood on either side. There was also a group photo at the back. A portion of the base's military officers and program team personnel were called. After the photos were taken, Midasi and the others were surprised to find out that Feng Zhao had donated the prize money to Bu Base. You really donated it all? Not a single cent left? Midasi could not understand why Feng Zhao would make such a decision. Even if Flemington had said that he would help Feng Zhao apply for military merits, this wasn't enough for Feng Zhao to be promoted. Besides, even if he was promoted, he wouldn't have any real power. As long as Feng Zhao didn't enter the military, he wouldn't be of much use. What was the point of donating tens of billions of dollars? To support Planet Bu's construction? Feng Zhao chuckled. To the others, this was just a joke and they wouldn't take it seriously. Tens of billions? Who would be so selfless? In the past, there were indeed wealthy people who donated tens of billions of assets, but that was only when they were dying. How old was Feng Zhao? Didn't he plan for his future? Feng Zhao did not explain further. After everyone dispersed, those who worked, rested, played, or patrolled, Feng Zhao returned to his room and gazed at the sky outside the window. Up until now, the third strategic military location on Planet Bu had basically been confirmed. Spaceflight General Headquarters had already selected the area and was just waiting for it to be announced. Feng Zhao smiled in gratification when he thought about the new aviation city, space city, and spaceflight experimental base that was about to be constructed on Planet Bu. Material and water brought life. Technology and culture determined the future. If there had been a second choice at that time, wouldn't the people from the period of destruction have a different future? Online. Official media outlets reported news about the Alcade. Because of the program team director's activities, the first batch of reporters to report on the Alcade didn't mention the program team. Reporters from authoritative media outlets that came along with the Interplanetary Fund and Spaceflight General Headquarters had a more serious style and wouldn't report casually. The director discussed with them to first suppress the program team's news. After the first episode was released, it wouldn't matter anymore. The few reporters from the official media outlets insisted on reporting truthfully and in detail. However, they also agreed to give them time. Once the deadline was up, they would release a detailed draft. News about the Alcade sparked heated discussion on the internet. However, many people actually didn't realize the importance of this matter. They only followed along and discussed it when they saw the various official media outlets reporting on it. Compared to the significance of the Alcade itself, the public's focus was on that 100 billion. I just heard from an adventurer friend that the Interplanetary Fund's search for the Alcade mission has a reward of 100 billion. This time, it was discovered by Boo Base. Boo Base is rich? Is this the legendary overnight riches? 2 days later, the buzz died down. Netizens who were paying attention to the entertainment section discovered that the first episode of Up Close Contact was about to be released. Everyone was rather expectant when they thought about the extravagant and gold-plated guest lineup. Of course, there were also people who felt bored. What's there to look at? Isn't it just the same old routine? In order to rally everyone to support impoverished areas, get everyone to willingly donate money, come up with a story about how poor they are, and play the emotional card. These types of programs are mostly like this. Would it be our turn to find places with real investment value? Just treat it as doing good deeds and donating some money. All the netizens felt that they were wise and far-sighted. They had seen through the program team's routine. It was time for the program to be updated. The first episode of the new episode was released. Regardless of what kind of attitude people had, they all clicked on it. The opening scene was completely different from the past. The biting cold and grand music made people shiver. A deep and resounding male voice that seemed to carry a boundless righteousness rang out. This is mankind's greatest adventure. The scene was a precious video and audio recording from 400 years ago. Ignition ready. System ready. Countdown commencing. 9. Start main engine. 3, 2, 1. 7 spaceships rose into the sky. At the break of dawn, they were like 7 bright stars lighting up the sky as they began their journey into space. The spectacular scene and the extremely powerful accompanying music stirred the hearts of the people. However, the self-proclaimed wisest audience members in front of the screen were all stupefied. They exited and looked at the contents of the page. It was the variety show Up Close Contact, without a doubt. They clicked on the page again. Huh? What happened to the promised poverty alleviation variety show? What happened to the promised entertainment show? With such a serious opening, I fucking thought that I had clicked on a documentary channel. 5 minutes later, the discussion section of the program's viewing page exploded. So this time, the program team's poverty alleviation target is the Boo Base that just received 100 billion? Looking at the foreshadowing, Boo Base was still a pitiful place before the program team arrived. It was only after the program team arrived that the base military discovered the Alcade. Did the program team bring along the god of fortune? From a certain perspective, this can also be considered poverty alleviations. I just want to know how much money the program team can get. Then are we still going to donate this time? I feel like the nature has changed. This can't be called a donation anymore. A more festive call is a red packet. Very quickly, Boo Base's donation section at the bottom of the program's viewing page turned red. Red packet, congratulations to Boo Base for becoming rich overnight. Red packet, congratulations to Boo Base for becoming rich overnight. Red packet, let's freeload and hope we can win the next draw. Red packet, greetings to the god of fortune. Chapter 397. The program's webpage was already flooded with red packets. Many people lamented, what kind of luck does Planet Boo have to have such a fortuitous encounter on such a small and poor base? The discovery of the Alcade and the popularity brought about by the program team caused another heated discussion on the internet. In this episode of Up Close Contact, the old viewers were flabbergasted by the sudden toughness of the show's gentleness. In the past, the style of the program was, cabbages, the ground is yellow, the cold wind is blowing, how miserable. This time, it was, come on. Let the sandstorm be more violent. Even moving bricks had the power to topple mountains and overturn seas. The people of Laizhou, and Tongzhou were deeply moved. Zaro personally drove the excavator to dig the sand, Barbara cast aside her obsession with cleanliness to clean up the wreckage, and Wu Tianhao's hairstyle was completely messed up. These three usually paid the most attention to their appearances, but this time, they had sacrificed their image. Looking at their dusty faces in front of the camera, they were really helping the poor and not just going through the motions. The people of Mazhou were looking forward to Midas's first variety show after his retirement. Coupled with the filter effect of the surname Mars, it didn't matter if they were fans or not, they would shower him with a wave of bootlicking. As for Yenzhou netizens, pressing a titanium alloy keyboard. This time, it must be Fang Zhao who discovered the alcade. Our great Yenzhou's divine ears are no joke. Now that you put it that way, it does make sense. Rumor has it that Fang Zhao's ear has been coveted by the Academy of Science. I wonder if it's true. I also feel that the alcade incident has something to do with Fang Zhao. Does anyone have any information? Wang Tai, you piece of trash. Wang Tai, who had just revealed the secret marriage of a certain best actor, was speechless. What does this have to do with me? Wang Tai felt that he had to clear himself of this matter and not let others drag him into it. He hurriedly went online and posted, "Let's see how the authoritative media reports later on. Even if they don't say it clearly, we can still find clues from the photos. Their photos are the most convincing." Sure enough, after the first episode of Up Close Contact was broadcasted, 3 authoritative media outlets further reported on Planet Boo's alcade. Although they had already concealed the discovery process of the alcade, the photos that were released allowed wise and far-sighted netizens to discover the hidden evidence. It's confirmed. It was official evidence. Fang Zhao was always in the center position in the group photos of the bounty hunters. Let me explain. Of the 2 people standing in the middle of the photo, one is Fang Zhao, and the other is Bu Base Commanding Officer Flemington. To be able to stand together with the base commanding officer, they are definitely people who played an important role in this alcade excavation operation. Fang Zhao even brought a dog? Am I the only one who cares about the bounty? If he stands together with Commander Flemington, won't Fang Zhao receive the same bounty as Bu Base? Even if it's less than half, it should be 30 to 40 billion, right? TSK. Fang Zhao has become a super tycoon in one go? A true aristocratic family without a doubt. Many people felt like they were dreaming when they saw this. How old was Fang Zhao? Suddenly, his net worth was tens of billions? Yenzhou, Yanbei Retirement Facility. Coincidentally, there was an event going on in Yanbei City, and the reporters were interviewing retired veterans. After the incident with the alcade and Fang Zhao came out, when the reporters interviewed great-grandfather Fang, they specifically asked him about his stance on the matter. In front of the camera, great-grandfather Fang held onto 2 walnuts with a serious expression. Little Zhao's participation in a variety show during his advanced studies? He told me about it. I definitely wouldn't let him participate in other variety shows, but this is different. Supporting impoverished areas is a good thing. It should be encouraged. So what if it's a little tough and tiring? Now that little Zhao is a public figure, if he can do his bit for the troops stationed in impoverished areas, we will all strongly support him. Great-grandmother Fang had a dignified smile on her face. The reporters sighed in their hearts. Just look at how enlightened she is. At the end of the interview, great-grandfather Fang casually said, "I even personally went to Huangzhou's spaceport to send him off. It wasn't easy for this child to travel so far. We were so worried. Look, these are all photos we took in Huangzhou." Great-grandfather Fang flaunted the photos he had taken with Fang Zhao in Huangzhou. The backgrounds ranged from Huangart Academy to Huangzhou's Cemetery of Martyrs to the spaceport. Great-grandfather Fang even wore different t-shirts. However, the reporter's focus was on one of the photos. They pointed and asked, "Is this a fortune pouch?" Great-grandfather Fang took a look and nodded. "That's right. Before we went to Huangzhou, we requested for a new fortune pouch to be delivered to him at the cemetery." After the interview ended, people who had seen the interview forwarded the video to their friends and family. That's right. Fang Zhao's luck was so good. He definitely had the blessing of a fortune pouch. Thus, Yenzhou Cemetery, which had just cooled down a little, was flooded again. The same type of fortune pouch was sold out. The dream of 10 billion yuan was still a must. What if it came true? All in all, The program team of Up Close Contact was in the limelight this time. Broadcasting platforms discovered that the number of people who had pre-ordered the second episode of Up Close Contact had tripled compared to the first, and it was still increasing. To maintain popularity, the program team even announced at the end of the first episode that the next episode would be filmed on the arcade. This smugness directly caused a group of archaeologists, astronomers, and others to besiege him. Nonsense. What a waste. Complaints. We definitely have to complain. Even if the Spaceflight General Headquarters didn't care, would the Interplanetary Fund not care? That was their trump card back in the day. How could they have the heart to leave the arcade for a variety program team to trample on? However, some of the high-level technical researchers understood in their hearts. The arcade's true core technical area had definitely been moved away by the Interplanetary Fund. Even if the Interplanetary Fund hadn't moved everything away, the Spaceflight General Headquarters would have screened it again. What was left was just an empty shell. Even so, this was enough to satisfy the curiosity of people who didn't know the ropes. Of the 7 spaceships of the Dream Team back then, other than the arcade, only 2 remained. The only one that was displayed in the exhibition hall had been dismantled. Visitors couldn't enter the cabin and could only look at it from the outside. It wasn't as attractive as a complete spaceship. Compared to the excitement on the internet, the Interplanetary Fund was much more serious. Basement 15 of the Interplanetary Fund's headquarters was an absolute forbidden ground. Many middle and high-level managers didn't have the qualifications to enter this place. Most people didn't even know this place existed because the elevators that were open to them only went to basement 10. Many people didn't even know how many floors there were below basement 10 even after leaving the Interplanetary Fund. At this moment, basement 15, the atmosphere was solemn. There were close to 50 people here. Some looked young, while others had white hair and wrinkles all over their faces. Among them, the Interplanetary Fund's current chairman, Enchanting, was standing at the back with a few other directors. Regardless of how impressive they usually were outside, at this moment, they were as obedient as grandchildren. Even their breathing became cautious, as though they were treading on thin ice. At the head of the group was a young woman. She held a round metal object the size of a palm in her hands as she walked towards an oval cabin that was slowly rising. The round metal object and the cabin both had the image of a malevolent bear head. After verifying her identity, a round hole opened up in the oval cabin, just enough for her to place the metal object in her hands inside. Sigh, ice-cold gas dispersed in all directions as the cabin disintegrated. After the white fog dissipated, everyone could clearly see the person standing there. He looked like an ordinary and slightly chubby 10-year-old boy. The moment the boy opened his eyes, the current chairman, Enchanting, took a deep breath and felt goosebumps all over his body. A chill ran down his spine. This was one of the Interplanetary Fund's trump cards, superintelligence. Although he had previously heard about superintelligence from a few retired seniors, he only realized the disparity between what he had expected and what he had expected when he saw it for himself. Those artificial intelligence products, even the most top-notch ones, didn't give him this kind of hair-raising feeling. Those eyes brimming with vitality and emotions that were almost indistinguishable from a human's. Just by looking at this person in front of him, who would know that beneath the surface was a mechanical core. The other Interplanetary Fund seniors were much calmer. "Welcome home, little bear." The woman at the head of the group smiled. "You've worked hard." The little fatty called Little Bear blinked, and a glint flashed across his quick-witted eyes. The Interplanetary Fund seniors knew that this was him analyzing the newly received information. There was no need to say anything more. He could use the internet to obtain the information he wanted to know. Before this, they had also transferred a portion of the Interplanetary Fund's internal information that couldn't be found on the internet to him. "It's already been so long." The crisp voice of a child carried a sigh that didn't match his age. "Yes. This is the new body that grandfather made for you according to your request. He has been taking care of it all these years. Do you like it?" The woman at the head of the group asked. The little fatty used his chubby hand to poke his stomach and smiled. "I like it." After admiring his new body, the little fatty looked at the woman in front of him for a long time and suddenly said, "Suhua, Everyone from the Interplanetary Fund lowered their heads in unison, not daring to look at their big boss's expression. The name Hua was personally given to her by the founder of the Interplanetary Fund, the chief engineer, chief designer, and chief commander of the Dream Team Space Flight Project, Master Heng Xen. It was said that Master Heng Xen had a deep love for rural literature. Because he valued this granddaughter of his, he personally gave her the name Hua. After Master Heng Xen passed away, the Interplanetary Fund didn't dare to mock this name and used other names instead. They even called him the Great Demon King behind his back. How many years had it been to hear someone call him this name? How gutsy! As expected of a superintelligence, he dared to provoke the Great Demon King. As if sensing the awkward atmosphere, the little fatty blinked and changed his name. Little Hua. Everyone from the Interplanetary Fund lowered their heads even more and stared at the floor as if there was a mine beneath their feet. Awkward atmosphere 2.0. After a while, the woman standing at the head of the table said, "What's the matter? I seem to have forgotten something." With that, Fatty raised his right hand, palm facing upward, and even whistled. Interplanetary Fund? Silence. Awkward atmosphere 3.0. The senior executives looked at each other. After working together for so long, they could understand each other's intentions with just a look. What does this little fatty mean by extending his hand? Is the thinking of a superintelligence too advanced, or am I really getting old? Don't tell me we have to give red packets for this kind of meeting. Red packets? I didn't prepare anything. I didn't prepare anything either. What should I do? If I don't give it, will he cry? I have no experience dealing with superintelligence. Should I just transfer the money or package it as cash? Who still carries cash these days? Should I give him something else? Let's see what the Great Demon King does. Let's just follow his lead. The senior executives exchanged glances and finally reached an agreement. They all looked at the person at the head of the table. The big boss didn't understand either. What do you want? Where's Little Riches? I didn't discover him within my scanning range. Did you guys see him? What's Riches? My pet. The superintelligence, Little Bear, pointed at his fingers guiltily. It created him when I was bored. I remember that Master Heng Xen once issued a death order. Without permission, none of you are allowed to create advanced intelligent objects. An old man couldn't help but say. Under everyone's condemning gazes, Little Bear looked aggrieved and hurriedly defended himself. No. He can't reach the level of advanced intelligence. He's just a retarded toy that can avoid obstacles. Did you guys forget him on the spaceship? Chapter 398. The Interplanetary Fund couldn't help but pay attention to the fact that a superintelligence had created an intelligence of an unknown level. After leading Little Bear to the warehouse for a round, a group of senior management also got into action. They checked every step of the way and confirmed that the Little Riches wasn't among the items brought back from the arcade and that it wasn't lost during transportation. I lost Little Riches. Little Bear was alarmed. Should I go to Planet Boo to look for it? The Interplanetary Fund discussed for a while. Big Boss ordered Little Bear to whistle to the people left behind on Planet Boo. If Little Riches heard this signal, it would appear. What if it doesn't appear? Will it be caught by others? We have to be on guard against the Spaceflight General Headquarters and Boo Base, an old man suggested. It won't. At this point, Little Bear's alarmed expression became calm again. Little Riches has mastered over 300 types of escape techniques. Furthermore, it is made of special materials. Ordinary weapons won't be able to harm it. If it wakes up after charging and discovers that I'm not around, it will immediately look for nearby creatures to use as cover. Small, weak, and low-intelligence creatures will be prioritized. That's good. The Interplanetary Fund was slightly relieved. They had finally found the last lost superintelligence and the only one they could come into close contact with. The Interplanetary Fund was rather lenient toward Little Bear. Little Bear first went to pay his respects to his deceased master, the founder of the Interplanetary Fund, Master Heng Xen. Little Bear had made preparations long ago when he had received the mission to leave this planet. Thus, Little Bear wasn't too sad when he paid his respects. Little Bear wanted to familiarize himself with the environment after returning to this planet after 400 years. Director General Meshachis was apprehensive when he was called over by Big Boss. He was afraid that he had done something wrong and would be demoted. This is Meshachis, the current Interplanetary Fund's Director General. Little Bear, you can follow him and familiarize yourself with him for a period of time. There are huge changes compared to 400 years ago. I will give you a week to get used to it. 1 month. Little kids need holidays. Little Bear started to haggle. I'm afraid of the dark after being trapped in a dark sand pit for a long time. I might even suffer from claustrophobia. I want to go to a wider and brighter place to recuperate. Interplanetary Fund staff, stop bullshitting. Do you want us to throw the spacecraft's record in your face? Did he really think he was a child? He was a brat who could play with the energy red line and had no choice but to hibernate after the spacecraft had met with a mishap. Claustrophobia my ass. Just say that you want to go out and have fun after sleeping for too long. Finally, the big boss said, 15 days, come back to work in 15 days. It wasn't that the Interplanetary Fund was strict, but that they had to keep a close eye on superintelligences at all times. It was impossible for them to take long vacations, especially for the one in front of them. Given time, he would cause trouble. Planet Boo, beside the sandpit where the Alcade was located. Feng Zhao followed the program crew into the Alcade to record the program. Due to the limited number of people, Nan Feng and the others couldn't follow them in. They waited in the resting area with their dogs. Curly Hair wasn't willing to stay in the house. He wasn't afraid of the heat either, so he lay outside the door and played with the sand. Suddenly, Curly Hair's ears twitched. He stood up abruptly and stared at the sand. Woof woof woof. As he shouted, Curly Hair wanted to take a few steps forward, but he was held back by the rope. Nan Feng, who was chatting with Yen Biao and Zui Yu in the room, was startled and hurried out. What happened? Nan Feng followed Curly Hair's line of sight. Something was running towards them from under the sand. Yen Biao and Zui Yu, who had run out after hearing the commotion, became alert and gestured for Nan Feng to bring Curly Hair in. However, Curly Hair didn't cooperate. His gaze was fixed on the sand, and Nan Feng couldn't move him no matter how hard he tried. Nan Feng couldn't be bothered with why he couldn't move a dog as he watched that thing get closer and closer. He shielded Curly Hair behind him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the thing under the sand finally emerged. It was a flat, oval-shaped black bug with several legs and 2 long antennae. The moment it popped its head out, 3 pitch-black gun barrels were pointed at it. The black bug's 2 antennae gradually stiffened. Then, with a whoosh, its legs and antennae retracted, and its body curled up into a black ball the size of a tennis ball. Nan Feng and the other 2 stared at that black ball but didn't see it move for a long time. Curly Hair ran over and swiped with his claws, and the black ball rolled forward. Seeing this, Curly Hair excitedly chased after the ball. Nan Feng, who was holding onto the leash, ran forward. Hey, Curly Hair, stop. Don't run. Curly Hair caught up to the ball and swiped with his claws again, sending the black ball flying. Curly Hair became even more excited. In another resting area not far away, the people there watched Nan Feng being dragged by a dog from the window and said disdainfully, "Look at Feng Zhao's useless assistant next door. He can't even hold back a dog." When Feng Zhao came out of the Alcade after recording today's mission, he immediately saw Curly Hair chasing after the ball and Nan Feng, who was on the verge of tears, following behind him. "What are you doing?" Feng Zhao berated. Curly Hair's ears twitched. He didn't grasp the angle of his claws well, and the black ball flew to the other side. Midasi had just finished recording and was drenched in sweat. His assistant was holding a fan and blowing at him. Midasi still felt that the wind wasn't strong enough, so he took out the commemorative light alloy fan given to him by Bu Base. He had just started fanning himself when he heard someone shout, "Careful!" Seeing the black ball flying over, Midasi reflexively swung his fan over. His posture was precise and his reaction was godly. One look and it was obvious that he was a professional. The black ball was sent flying again. Midasi's eyes lit up. The fatigue from recording the program was swept away. "This ball feels good." My hands have been itching for a long time. Midacy turned to his assistant and said, "Go, get my racket." The ball flew in the direction of Wu Tianhao's side. Wu Tianhao's interest was piqued when he saw Midacy swinging the ball. He took out the commemorative alloy fan given to him by Bu Base and used it as a racket. Midacy, who had already obtained the racket, saw the ball being forcefully swung back and shouted, "Good move!" Bam! The black ball was sent flying again with great precision. Wu Tianhao received this ball with great difficulty and shouted, "Zero, come over quickly. Midacy, this fellow is a professional. We amateurs have to work together. Hey, watch me." Zero happily picked up the fan and joined in. The program team's director shook his head and chuckled when he saw this scene. Youngsters. The cameraman didn't need to say much. He captured this rare friendly match in the desert. Finally, Midacy swung a ball over. Zero didn't receive it, and the ball flew over to a Spaceflight General Headquarters leader who had come over to inspect. The leader frowned and picked up the black ball from the ground. He squeezed it and found that it was rather soft. Curly Hair, who was closest, snorted and walked over quickly. He stared at the ball in the leader's hand. He then raised his head to look at the rowdy group over there and berated with a straight face, "Don't throw dog toys around." Nan Feng hurriedly apologized. Sorry. I will definitely take note." The other managers also came over to express their attitudes. They would definitely take note next time. Seeing that everyone was apologetic, the Spaceflight General Headquarters leader's expression eased up. He squeezed the black ball in his hand again before handing it over to Nan Feng. He couldn't help but ask, "Where did you buy this ball?" Nan Feng stuttered, "I don't know." The leader didn't get angry when he didn't get the answer he wanted. Forget it. It wasn't anything important anyway. I'll just go back and check on the internet. The leader waved his hand and let them leave. After Nan Feng received the ball, Curly Hair tugged at his pants and asked for it. Curly Hair was very obedient this time. He wagged his tail and followed Nan Feng back. Along the way, Midacy and the others tried to borrow the ball, but Curly Hair didn't let them play. After returning to the resting area, Nan Feng told Feng Zhao about the black ball. Feng Zhao took the black ball from Curly Hair's mouth and squeezed it. It was indeed very soft, and he couldn't tell what material it was made of. However, even after suffering so many hits from Curly Hair's claws, being hit like a tennis ball by Midacy and the others, and being held in Curly Hair's mouth, its surface was still as smooth as new. Planet Boo organism? He had a feeling that this wasn't a normal living organism. Curly Hair whimpered pitifully at the side. He looked at Feng Zhao and then stared pitifully at the ball. Curly Hair seems to like this toy a lot. Nan Feng realized that he had been led astray. This wasn't a real ball. It was a bug. Feng Zhao considered it for a bit before returning the black ball to Curly Hair. He told Nan Feng and the others, "Keep it first. Keep an eye on it." Bus. Elsewhere, the Spaceflight General Headquarters leader on patrol was still thinking, "I wonder what that little black ball is made of. It feels really good. I'll buy a few more for my kids and dog to play with when I get back." As he was thinking, he saw someone walking over and his face darkened. "Didn't you go over to the base?" The person who had come over was the Interplanetary Fund's person in charge who had remained on Planet Boo. The Spaceflight General Headquarters and the Interplanetary Fund had a cooperative relationship, but there was also competition. For example, the Alcade's core technology. They had thought about it for a long time but hadn't been able to touch it. They had already reacted quickly this time, but who knew that the Interplanetary Fund would still beat them to it? They hadn't even seen the shadow of the black box. It would be strange if they had a good expression now. The Interplanetary Fund person in charge who had remained on Planet Boo wasn't in the mood to say much. He smiled and headed over to the Alcade. When he entered the Alcade once again, the person in charge instructed his subordinates to stand guard outside while he played the audio he had just received. After waiting for a while, there was still no movement. Unwilling to give up, he tried a few more regions near the Alcade. Because this was a secret operation, he didn't dare search openly or tell anyone else. Even his own subordinates didn't know what he was looking for. He could only wait anxiously. Why didn't such an important object have a GPS? After playing the audio for 3 days and expanding the region, there wasn't even a shadow of the object. Helpless, he could only report this result. The soldiers guarding this region had also heard the whistles over the past 3 days. Because they were a distance away each time, they couldn't see clearly and thought that it was the Interplanetary Fund personnel whistling. They even joked in private. The Interplanetary Fund personnel looked serious, but it turns out that they also like to whistle. They even whistle nursery rhymes. How childish. The Interplanetary Fund person in charge who heard the rumors. Forget it. I'll take the blame for this. Several days later, the highly anticipated second episode of Up Close Contact was broadcasted. It was indeed filmed on the arcade and satisfied many people's curiosity. It was just that Interplanetary Fund headquarters. Director General Mashassis pointed at a certain scene in the program where the black ball was being beaten around and asked, "Is it that one?" Little Bear, who was also staring with wide eyes, replied, "Didn't they say that it has over 300 escape techniques? Didn't they say that it can avoid humans and seek cover? It really does. Then what about this situation? The pseudo-death program has been activated." Under the doubtful gazes of the Interplanetary Fund personnel, Little Fatty explained with a humiliated expression, "To put it simply, it's just like many animals when they encounter danger, faking death and shutting down in a defensive state." The Interplanetary Fund personnel heaved a sigh of relief. It was indeed a retarded robot toy for it to shut down so easily. However, according to Little Bear, the materials used for that retarded robot toy were very special, and it had to be retrieved as soon as possible. The materials and technology could not be leaked. Little Bear scratched his head. He was also bewildered. Theoretically speaking, unless it encountered a natural predator, Little Rich's wouldn't have activated its highest defensive state so easily. Could it be that too much time had passed and the components malfunctioned? Forget it. I'll just wait for the Interplanetary Fund personnel to bring Little Rich's back and upgrade it. As for now, forget it, it's time for holidays. Time to go out and have fun. Speak cliché update time is uncertain, but it will be as soon as possible. Chapter 399. The Interplanetary Fund's current chairman, Mashassis, felt that he had taken on a thorny task. After considering many candidates, consulting the higher-ups and discussing with Little Bear, he called his son, Danky Assis, over worriedly. Danky, who had just returned home from a boat race with a bunch of scoundrels, received a call from his father. Danky wondered what important matter made him call so urgently. He hadn't caused any trouble recently, and there weren't any major issues at home. As he pondered over the reason his father had called him over, Danky arrived at the Interplanetary Fund's headquarters and entered the office belonging to Chairman Mashassis. The moment he entered, he saw a child dressed like a bear sitting on the sofa, swinging his legs. His heart skipped a beat. Who made this child? He cast a suspicious glance at his father and was glared back. Mashassis coughed lightly and introduced, "This is Little Bear. Bring him along to play for the next few days." Danky wasn't happy. Whose child is this? How many days is a few days? Mesh raised his hand and pointed upwards. Danky's pupils constricted. His previous sloppy demeanor vanished as he sat up straight. He was extremely excited. This was a mission from the higher-ups. Wasn't it just to bring a child to play? He wasn't good at anything else, but when it came to playing, he was good at it. Being able to take on this mission meant that his name had already been registered at the higher-ups. Perhaps he could enter the core management even earlier. His other siblings hadn't even squeezed in yet. Bring him along for a week first. Bring him wherever he wants to play, Mesh said. Just a week? No problem. Danky glanced at the child sitting on the sofa, staring at him, and accepted the mission. Mesh looked at his son, wanting to say something but hesitating. His expression was complicated as he opened his mouth and said, "Just try your bests. Don't worry. Isn't it just bringing him to eat, drink, and play? I can arrange that. No, you don't have to worry about eating and drinking. He will tell you what he wants to eat. Just bring him along wherever he wants to play for the next few days. You don't have to worry about anything else." Mesh exhorted some matters that needed to be taken note of. Although Danke was extremely puzzled, he knew that when it came to matters of the Interplanetary Fund, he shouldn't ask what he shouldn't. If he asked too much, he might not be able to enter the core management. All right, understood. Danke guaranteed. I will definitely complete the mission. Danke walked to the sofa, squatted down and revealed what he believed to be his friendliest and most amiable smile. Hello, I am Danke Assis. You are Little Bear, right? Little Bear looked at Danke for a while and smiled innocently. Hello, Dandan. Danke. This child is really not likable. Regardless of his first impression, Danke accepted the mission. He picked up the luggage that his father had handed him and brought Little Bear out with him. After entering the car, Danke asked, "Where are we going to play first?" "Let's fly one round around the Imperial City first," Little Bear said. Sure. Danke wouldn't have any complaints even if he had to fly one round around Huangzhou, let alone around the Imperial City. Anyway, if this matter was done well, there would definitely be benefits. The child of the leader's family would be treated like an ancestor. Mesh stood by the office window and sighed as he watched the flashy flying car rise and fly away from downstairs. He wondered how long his youngest son could last against a superintelligence. 2 days later, Mesh was handling some documents and wasn't surprised to hear that Danke had come looking for him. He said to his assistant, "Let him in." "Father," Danke let out a long scream and ran in. He squatted down and hugged Mesh's leg. "You are my biological father." There was a bruise around one of Danke's eyes and words were written on his face. The left side of his face read bastard, and the right side read egg. His usually exquisitely styled fringe was now a mess on his forehead. Tears flickered in his eyes. Mesh took a look inside. "Speak the truth." Danke took a deep breath and pointed to the words on his face. "I lost in a game." He then pointed to his bruised eye. "I was woken up from sleep and my tone was a little bad. I got beaten up." "Father, did this child grow up eating bears?" "He was too strong." He couldn't beat him in a game and wasn't as strong as a child in a fight. This was the first time Danke had suffered such a blow. Mesh knew his son very well. He was well aware of how much Danke's words could be trusted. He had definitely been beaten up because Danke had stayed in bed and had a bad temper when he woke up. In the end, he had met a tough opponent and was beaten up instead. A superintelligence could be used as a weapon of war. In comparison, Danke had only suffered a bruised eye. This couldn't even be considered a joke. Therefore, Mesh replied with an expressionless "oh" in response to Danke's tearful complaint. "If you can't do this mission, I will hand it over to someone else." "Don't?" Danke hurriedly said. He had only come over to let his father and the Interplanetary Fund leaders know how difficult it was to raise that child and to let them see how hard it was for him. He didn't really want to give up on this mission. "Father, is that really from the great leader's family?" Danke asked in a low voice. "Yes." Mesh nodded. The children of the great leader's family are indeed different. Danke's expression turned solemn. He stood up and pushed his messy fringe behind his head. "Don't worry, I can still persevere. With such acting skills, even if you can't squeeze into the core, you can still join the entertainment industry," Mesh said with a wooden face. "Heh." Danke laughed awkwardly and jumped up to stretch his arms. "Then I will head back. I have given my video platform account to that child to watch a series. He rather likes Founding Era. The entire series has so many episodes that it will take him a long time to watch." At the mention of the entire series of Founding Era, Danke praised his own wit. "Why am I so smart?" He reckoned that the child probably wouldn't even have finished a chapter by the time the mission was up. "Don't think of him as simple. You just do your best," Mesh emphasized once again. "Hi, don't worry." Danke waved his hands and hurried back. He had taken the opportunity while that little brat was watching a series to come over and make his presence known. However, when he returned home, Danke realized that this little brat's viewing speed was a little too fast. He had been watching the Founding Era Shizhou chapter before heading out. How had it been the Yenzhou chapter when he returned? A round trip would take at most an hour, right? Looking at Little Bear, who was currently watching the Yenzhou chapter, he could barely hold back his tears. Danke changed into a pair of slippers and turned around. He saw Little Bear's tears retract at a speed visible to the naked eye. His reddened eyes had returned to normal and there wasn't a single trace of him crying. Danky had a horrified look on his face. So tears can really be held back. Following which he suffered another blow. His acting skills actually couldn't even compare to a child's. Really good acting, Little Bear exclaimed. Of course. Look at what kind of cast and crew Founding Era is. Alright, Little Bear, after watching so many episodes, which actor do you like the most? Danky asked after regaining his senses. Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao? Real. TSK, he is an actor. Aren't they all acting? How can there be any realism? Then his acting is the most realistic. What does a child know about realism? I want his autograph. I don't have one. I will help you buy one online. I want to take a photo with him. He is filming on a foreign planet and can't come back. Are you learning from others and chasing stars? Chasing stars will make you retarded. Danky threatened. You are chasing stars? Little Bear turned around and asked. What do you mean? This brat isn't cute at all. Seeing that the other party wasn't replying, Danky asked, are you going to continue watching the series or do you want to play something else? Watching the series. Sure, you can continue watching. Call me if you need anything. There is food in the fridge. If you are hungry or thirsty, go find it yourself. Don't stand on ceremony. I will return to my room to catch up on some sleep. Little Bear, who was staring at the screen, raised his hand and waved without even turning his head. Danky returned to his room and took a shower. He washed away the words on his face, applied some medicine to his eyes, and took a good afternoon nap. When he woke up, he realized that Little Bear was watching a concert. Feng Zhao's concert video. Danky yawned and muttered to himself, not watching the series anymore? Kids are so fickle. He scrolled through his own video platform account and checked his viewing history. Looking at the long history, Danky was shocked awake. He had watched every chapter of Founding Era in its entirety. He had even searched out the editing and interviews of the series. Danky checked the time and confirmed that he had only slept for 2 hours and not 2 months. Danky guessed that the brat had skipped through the video and stretched his neck to take a look. That brat was watching the concert seriously and didn't look like he wanted to fast forward. Danky exited the recording room and sent his father a message. That brat is chasing stars. Is there a problem? Mesh immediately replied with a video call. What's going on? Just like that. See? He is watching a video of Feng Zhao's concert. He even said that he wanted Feng Zhao's autograph and wanted to take a photo with him. When Feng Zhao returns from recording, I reckon he will go look for him. Dad, what's wrong? Actually, it's just chasing stars. Look at how scared you are. On the other end of the video call, Interplanetary Fund Director General Mesh Assis, who had been entrusted with an important task, was pale and drenched in cold sweat. He didn't immediately reply to Danky's question. After ending the video call, he sent a message. Get him to stay far away from Feng Zhao during the mission. No, as far away as possible. Don't go near him. Mesh was worried. Little Bear only looked like a human, but he was actually the core of a superintelligence. If Feng Zhao's ears were too close, Mesh was worried that Feng Zhao would hear something. Danky frowned when he received his father's message. His gaze swept across the little figure in the recording room. Cough, Little Bear, let's change stars to chase. Look at that, the news just came out. Feng Zhao donated tens of billions to Boo Base, Little Bear suddenly said. What? Danky was so shocked by Little Bear's words that he forgot what he had wanted to say. He searched the internet and discovered that this matter wasn't fabricated. Many authoritative media outlets had reported on it. There were 2 pieces of news regarding Boo Base. One was that Boo Base was about to construct its 3rd largest military base and that the planet was already on lockdown. The second was that Feng Zhao didn't keep a single cent of the reward for discovering the Alcade and donated it all to Boo Base. Is this person stupid? Is there something wrong with his brain? The bounty was so huge. Why not donate it all to Boo Base? What could be more valuable than that? Danky couldn't understand. Was it worth it? At the same time, in Yinzhou's Yanbei retirement facility, great-grandfather Fong had also seen this news. His hands were trembling and his lips were trembling. In an instant, he imagined all kinds of swindling and using one's power to oppress others. Great-grandfather Fong, who was selectively blind and biased to no end, cried, "My family's little Zhao must have suffered grievances. Grievances of the heavens. Bad intentions. All bad intentions." Chapter 400. Great-grandfather Fong wasn't the only one who thought this way. Many people who saw today's news would wonder if there was some sort of transaction behind this. Otherwise, who would be willing to donate tens of billions of dollars? Tens of billions of dollars. How much could it be exchanged for? Furthermore, Fong Zhao's current identity was an artist. What was the point of donating so much money to Bu Base's construction? Firstly, he wouldn't have any power, and secondly, he wouldn't be promoted. Wouldn't he have to leave some for himself? However, regardless of what many people thought in private, the various authoritative media outlets were very happy to report this news. This benchmark had to be set up. Look at how enlightened people are. Was this something an ordinary person could do? While discussions were raging online on Planet Bu, the Little Rich's black sphere had been returned. The Interplanetary Fund had come knocking after seeing the new episode of the variety show. Fong Zhao didn't say much and returned the black sphere. Curly Hair had nothing to play with and was searching for toys all over the desert. All sorts of lively creatures in the desert were his targets. After playing with them for a while, he would secretly eat them. In the following period of time, besides recording programs, composing songs, writing theses, etc., Fong Zhao also applied for all sorts of pilot certificates for fighter aircrafts, armed flying transports, armored combat vehicles, etc. He had been very interested in piloting the Alcade that day when he had been filming the program on the Alcade. However, given his current status, he still couldn't apply for this level of pilot certificate. Because of his contributions and donations, he didn't get a promotion, but his merits were recorded. Fong Zhao's application for a pilot certificate went through the expedited review process. In less than an hour, everything that could be approved was approved. Following that, Fong Zhao took some time to attend classes with the soldiers in the military to learn relevant theories and practical driving practice. The people of Bu Base discovered that Fong Zhao was a person who learned theory quickly, but he was even faster when it came to practical driving. In other people's eyes, Fong Zhao had talent in this area and was extremely talented. But the truth was that Fong Zhao had come into contact with a lot of things during the period of destruction. Although it wasn't as advanced back then, and the various operations weren't as intelligent, there wasn't a need for any certificates or applications. Those who had the ability could do it, and those who didn't had to brace themselves for survival. This was how a person's potential was forced out. However, other people didn't know that Bu Base Commanding Officer Flemington had sighed countless times. What a pity! A talent like Fong Zhao should have remained in the military and not become some artist. What a waste of talent! Nanfeng, Zuiyu, and Yen Biao watched impatiently as Fong Zhao took all sorts of driving tests. They had also applied for one, but the review process was slow and there were even more restrictions. Watching another squadron of fighter jets fly past, Yen Biao said enviously, "Back when I was on Planet Baiji, I didn't have the means to touch this model. After Planet Baiji developed, I also retired. I didn't expect that I would be so close to these new models. Our application should be approved in the next 2 days. However, we won't get as many applications as the boss," Nanfeng said. Different models of military aircrafts and fighter jets would have different piloting requirements. In the army, the division would be more detailed, and the assessment would be stricter. Zuiyu thought of something. Our boss took all sorts of tests here. The issuing authority should be Bu Base? This was Bu Base, which was going to become the third most important military location in the future. The value of a certificate issued here would increase with the construction of Bu Base in the future. This was not something an ordinary private or business certificate could compare to. After a long silence, the three of them said in unison, "How envious! How many licenses has our boss obtained so far?" Nanfeng asked. "He just obtained the 7th one today." Yen Biao remembered clearly. How many more do you think he will get when the program filming ends? There's no end to the tests. Our boss is addicted to them. I even saw him flipping through books on engines yesterday. Will he take the test for a technician or something in the future? What a crazy certification demon. Nan Feng decided to introduce himself to others in the future. My boss is an artist who is passionate about certification. As for now, let's just walk the dog first. After Feng Zhao finished his round, he was stopped by Flemington for a chat. Recently, Flemington had been in high spirits because Bu Base was about to become the third most important military location. He didn't want to be transferred anymore and would fight anyone who wanted to transfer him. This was the third most important military location. When the time came, it wouldn't be his turn to be the boss here, but his position definitely wouldn't be low. He would also have even more authority. Everything else went smoothly except for Feng Zhao. Flemington wanted to persuade Feng Zhao to stay here and develop. As the current commanding officer of the base, he still had some authority. However, Feng Zhao refused. Seeing Feng Zhao's outstanding test results over the past few days, Flemington still wasn't satisfied and personally came over to stop him. Flemington pointed to the front and drew a circle. In the future, a test flight field will be built here. Every day, there will be countless new types of fighter jets taking off and landing. A new spaceport is already in the midst of construction, and over there, Flemington brought Feng Zhao to look at the desert and the sky. They talked about life and ideals, from fighter armor to spaceships. He couldn't wait to lure Feng Zhao into the base. However, Feng Zhao was still unwavering in his pursuit of music. The more he chatted with Feng Zhao, the more Flemington felt that this kid had great talent and bold vision. The close friend. The talent. Why did he have to go and become a music artist? What a waste. Some people wouldn't be able to become winners in life even if they were given 10 golden fingers. There were also some people who could soar into the clouds if given a chance. In Flemington's eyes, Feng Zhao was the latter. It was a pity that Feng Zhao's ambitions didn't lie here. Flemington sighed with every step he took. He sat on a rock that had been transformed into a peculiar shape by the wind and gazed at the flying dust in the distance. Feng Zhao, how do you feel about this trip to Bu? What do you feel most fortunate about? Flemington thought that Feng Zhao would mention the alcade and the bounty. Feng Zhao chuckled. Being alive. I still don't know how wonderful the future will be. As he was speaking, Feng Zhao received a notification about his internet access time. Due to Planet Bu's construction period, the internet access time wasn't fixed and would change due to new construction projects. The program team had to wait for notification if they wanted to go online, and the internet access time wasn't very long. Since Feng Zhao received the notification, Zaro and the others naturally received it as well. Feng Zhao watched as the people who had been looking for fun rushed to the base's soldiers to borrow cars as if they were in high spirits. Flemington shook his head as he watched. This bunch of people are really lively, Feng Zhao said. Flemington. Lively then, so be it. Feng Zhao got up and bade farewell. He also had to return to the base. He wanted to chat with great-grandfather and great-grandmother when he got internet access. Otherwise, the two elders would surely be worried. Over at the base, Zaro and the others immediately got into action after receiving the notification. Currently, Planet Bu was very busy. Flying transports were all useful, and there weren't any that could be rented. They could only borrow cars. It wasn't easy to borrow a car either. Otherwise, they would have to wait for a large vehicle to pick up the program team. That would take at least half an hour. For people who were in a hurry to go online, it would be great if they could save this half an hour. Barbara borrowed a patrol car that could carry small cargo from a squad of soldiers and got her assistant to quickly drive it away. Zaro and the others came over a step too late. The soldier replied coldly, "No." Wu Tianhao stomped his foot. "Fuck. You guys are sexist." Zaro felt resentful. Barbara must have been seduced. Midasi went forward to reason, but the soldiers had helpless expressions. "There really isn't any more. Our squad can only borrow that one. We will lend it to whoever comes first." What this meant was, who asked you guys to run so slowly? No more cars. Zaro, who was the closest but couldn't outrun Barbara. Angry. Midacy, who ran fast but was the furthest away. Depressed. Wu Tianhao, who was a beat slower from playing. Sullen. Why don't you go ask the other squads? That soldier asked. Zero turned around to look for soldiers from the other squads when he discovered Midacy and Wu Tianhao chasing after Barbara's car. That car had just started and hadn't picked up speed yet. The two of them ran very fast and squeezed Barbara's assistant and bodyguard out of the car after catching up. Wu Tianhao was driving. Barbara was sitting in the front passenger seat, and Midacy was huddled in the cargo area at the back. Zero, who was left behind, Plastic Brotherhood was simply too weak at this moment. Zero scanned his surroundings and his eyes lit up. He ran over while waving his hands vigorously. Fang Zhao, count me in. Nan Feng and the other two drove the other car. Fang Zhao sat in the driver's seat while Curly Hair sat in the front passenger seat. The cramped cargo area at the back was still empty. Zero had wanted to sit in the front passenger seat, but seeing Curly Hair bare his teeth, he hesitated for a moment before flipping over and entering the cargo area at the back. Fasten your seatbelts, Fang Zhao said. Where did the seatbelts come from? Zero scanned his surroundings and tied himself up with the cargo ropes. Done. Fang Zhao smiled and shook his head. He tossed Zero a helmet to prevent him from getting blown silly by the sandstorm. When he returned to the base, Fang Zhao first gave great-grandfather Fang a call request. Due to the new regulations, program team personnel weren't allowed to use video and other methods to communicate with friends and family. They could only use voice calls. Great-grandfather Fang expressed his understanding towards this. Planet Boo was currently in a closed construction phase due to the plans to become the third strategic military base. The level of secrecy had been raised. To prevent program team personnel from inadvertently leaking too much, allowing them to use voice calls was already sufficient consideration. Of course, this wasn't what great-grandfather Fang was concerned about. Little Zhao, tell me, did you suffer over there? Great-grandfather Fang was worried that people from Bu Base would play tricks and that Fang Zhao would be bullied. While great-grandfather Fang was on the call with Fang Zhao, retired veterans from the retirement facility also arrived one after another. Some were here to join in on the fun, some were worried, and some were purely bored and wanted to find something to do. They were still in discussion when they entered, but when they found out that great-grandfather Fang was on the call with Fang Zhao, they stopped talking and pricked up their ears to listen. They were also curious about what Fang Zhao was thinking. Great-grandfather Fang listened to Fang Zhao's explanation, and the worry on his face gradually dissipated. Really? How many types of fighter jets have you already gotten the certification? Hey, do you have that thing over there? Great-grandfather Fang mentioned a few new types of fighter jets that had been recently reported in the military news. Fang Zhao said that he had tried out 2 of them. As Planet Boo was still in the initial stages of construction, there were fewer models, so he had taken all the certifications that he could. Great-grandfather Fang's lips curled up continuously when he found out that Fang Zhao had taken all sorts of certifications and that he had even piloted a new type of fighter jet. Good. Oh my, you even piloted a submarine? Not bad, not bad. Right, there is also that new type of combat equipment that will be shipped to Planet Boo in the future. Even if you can't get the certification, if you can touch it, then touch it. Can't you take the test for piloting a warship? No problem, there's no rush. Let's take it step by step. Great-grandfather Fang chatted about all sorts of firearms, fighter jets, submarine armor, and other topics. The other old fellas present felt their hearts itch as they listened. Actually, from the looks of it, Fang Zhao's donation still had its benefits. Fang Zhao's certification applications would surely be approved quickly and given preferential treatment. Great-grandfather Fang beamed. He didn't know what Fang Zhao said, but great-grandfather Fang nodded his head repeatedly. You didn't do wrong. So what if you donate it? Bounty is a huge sum that comes easily, and we won't be able to use it properly. Being able to get those certifications is worth it. Great-grandfather Fang was practically a moron. In any case, he would nod his head vigorously in agreement with whatever Fang Zhao said. As for the bounty, he would just treat it as money that came with the strong winds and was blown away by the strong winds. Take more photos? Oh, it seems like I can't just randomly take photos now. Alright, I can rest assured knowing that you didn't suffer over there. Great-grandfather Fong reluctantly handed the communications device to great-grandmother Fong after he finished speaking. He then turned around to find someone to share Fong Zhao's accomplishments with. Oldly, let me tell you guys. Where is everyone? There had been a group of people sitting in the living room a moment ago, but now, not a single one of them had disappeared. Chapter 401. Friday afternoon update Fort Future Heavenly King, please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 402. After ending the call with great-grandfather Fong, Fong Zhao asked the people at the base before taking a photo and sending it over. Fong Zhao had taken the photo while standing in front of a new model of fighter jet that was being promoted by the military. He couldn't simply take photos of other models, so he had only taken one. However, just this one card was enough for great-grandfather Fong to show off for a long time. Days passed, and there weren't many days left for Fong Zhao and the others to film on Planet Boo. Because of the construction plan for Planet Boo's strategic military base, the program team was already being urged to speed up filming. Therefore, even if the director wanted to drag it out and stay for a few more days to film more gimmicks, he had no choice but to compress the estimated time. This episode's style of entertainment was different from the past. It was more serious and serious, but even though there weren't as many laughs as the previous episodes, the number of viewers was dozens of times more than the previous episodes. Especially the episode they filmed on the arcade, which had the highest number of subscriptions. As for Zaro and the others, because of the incident with the arcade, they had received some reward money. For them, this was like a precious, commemorative red packet. It was different. They had no use for the money in their accounts, but they had donated more things. Especially Zaro, who donated more than twice as much as he received. This wasn't because he had suddenly become enlightened, but because he knew that after getting the arcade's bounty, he would be beaten up if he didn't donate more. Fong Zhao's time on Planet Boo had been very fulfilling. Apart from recording programs, he was also busy composing, writing theses, and doing research. Occasionally, he would also find some time to play with Zaro and the others. From his experiences on Planet Boo, Fong Zhao was able to see the trends in human technology and culture in the new era. He was able to foresee future developments. Although there were some unsatisfactory areas under the surface, it was still good on the whole. Looking forward and walking in the direction of the outside, he wouldn't be wrong in the short term. Planet Boo's plan to establish the third strategic military base was proof of mankind's ambition. There was nothing wrong with this. Under the premise of controlling the pace, this kind of ambition was a good thing, especially for a leader who had experienced the crisis of survival during the period of destruction. This kind of development was something Fong Zhao was happy to see. Even if his old friends were here, they would also approve. It was very gratifying. This feeling was like a child who had been raised step by step. After they let go, the child could still inherit their will and walk on steadily. In the distance, in the sealed area, a huge aircraft was rising and falling. In the night sky, the spaceport outside Planet Boo that was currently under construction flickered like a star. The sea of stars, dreams, and the future. Fong Zhao added a star to a certain page in his notebook. On the day he left Planet Boo, a military reporter had looked for him and asked if a portion of his exam results could be made public. Fong Zhao thought about it and agreed. A few days later, the official military media published a form on their social media platform. On it was a list of Fong Zhao's examination results during his time on Planet Boo's variety show shoot. The military wanted to promote Fong Zhao as a role model, so after the official media released the news, many authoritative media outlets rushed to forward it. Before Fong Zhao had even returned, the news had already been hyped up. On that form were a series of permits granted by Boo Base. There were many types of fighter jets, armored vehicles, and submarines. There were permits that could fly in the sky, dive in the sea, and run on land. Military enthusiasts were busy popularizing science to the audience, analyzing the models involved, technology, and the level of armed forces behind them. Many people were dumbfounded by the shock. Although I don't really understand it, it sounds very advanced. He passed with full honors. He's also a top student. What tyrant? That's called a prodigy. Those permits aren't something that can be obtained just by burying one's head in theory. One's learning ability, mental fortitude, and so on all have to surpass the average person. It's already difficult for others to obtain even one, but he obtained all of these while participating in variety shows. He would also be considered a special grade in the military. Special grade. My impression of Fang Zhao is that of a refined young artist. The one above, what gives you the misconception that Fang Zhao is refined? Is it the inhuman-level berserk point-sweeping video that is still at the top of the gaming forums? Or is it the live broadcast of Fang Zhao's military service that doesn't lose out to the local garrison? Or perhaps it was the style of his music that people had begun to forget about, such as Get Up High from Sleep? How is he refined? Great-grandfather Fang, who was happily scrolling through the comments section of the Yanbei retirement facility, was infuriated when he saw this. How is my little Zhao not refined? However, great-grandfather Fang's defense was too weak and didn't change the direction of the online masses' thinking. Then the question is, why didn't he enter the military and instead dabble in the arts? Someone asked. I'm just curious, why are the last 2 lines censored? The last 2 lines of the list in the military newspaper were covered up. Only Fang Zhao's examination results and the permit issued by Bu Base were revealed. Probably because some things are still under a confidentiality period. I strongly suspect that the proof Fang Zhao obtained is even more than what was published in the military newspaper. There are also artists in the military. Will Fang Zhao head in that direction in the future? I heard through the grapevine that there are already many units intending to specially recruit Fang Zhao. Wasn't that guy who always did variety shows a few years ago specially recruited into the military? Last month, it was even exposed that he misused military funds. However, if it was Fang Zhao, I wouldn't be worried. Isn't that obvious? He has already donated tens of billions. Why would he care about that bit of military funds? Looking at Fang Zhao's current momentum, he has been promoted as a model by the higher-ups. If he is really specially recruited in the future, he will definitely be promoted quickly. When he completed his military service and transferred to reserve duty, an exception was made and he was promoted 1 rank. When the time comes, I reckon he will be promoted again. I have long heard that artists in the military are promoted quickly. They are different from combat troops. It is easy for them to render meritorious services and receive rewards. Perhaps Fang Zhao will be promoted to general before he turns 50. A soldier who doesn't want to be a general isn't a good artist. If I was Fang Zhao, I would definitely accept the special recruitment. That is a general. According to the current regulations, it is difficult for artists to have any real authority. What's the use of not having any authority? It is fine as long as there is honor and treatment. It is fine even if there is no authority. The internet was guessing whether Fang Zhao would be specially recruited into the military. Guangzhou, Mo Lang's residence. The usually peaceful and tranquil atmosphere was disrupted by an explosive roar. You all better give up on that idea. That is a talent that we have painstakingly nurtured. In the future, he will walk even further on the path of art. I don't care about that place of yours. Mo Lang was so angry that his beard was trembling non-stop as he spoke into his communications device. The person on the other end of the line was worried that he would anger this treasured artist badly when he saw Mo Lang's agitated mood and hurriedly explained. However, the more he explained, the angrier Mo Lang got. After all this talk, isn't it just to snatch people? No way. Mo Lang didn't wait for the other party to continue persuading him before cutting off the signal. At this age, Mo Lang had seen his fair share of situations. If Fang Zhao was specially recruited into those units, the academic atmosphere would surely be inferior to here. If he was led astray, he would have to attend to all sorts of social engagements and missions all day. There would be many people fighting openly and covertly for promotions. Mo Lang wouldn't let Fang Zhao go there and delay his precious artistic life. Mo Lang took a deep breath and paced a few rounds. This won't do. I need to read a few theses to calm down. Mo Lang's assistant hurriedly sent over the 2 theses and a new composition. Only then did Mo Lang's expression improve a little. When Fang Zhao returns, I will get him to start preparing for his graduation concert. Don't let other matters distract him. Mo Lang had this plan and contacted a few other people. After this wave of publicity by the military media, he would suppress this news. He didn't wish for news about Fang Zhao to be all over the internet when he returned. There were also some people who felt that Mo Lang's actions were superfluous. There was so much news on the internet every day. It was already pretty good if this sort of publicity news could last for 2 days. How could they expect him to maintain his popularity? Another 2 days later, the news about Fang Zhao's achievements on Planet Boo faded. Mo Lang was very happy. However, his happiness didn't last long. That piece of news from the military media was dug up on the internet once again and its popularity soared. What's going on? Mo Lang was stunned. Mother Planet, outer spaceport. Fang Zhao and his entourage and the program team had finally returned. However, they needed to undergo immigration and quarantine at the outer spaceport and would have to stay for a short period of time. Nobody in the program team had any complaints, including Zero. They weren't impatient. In any case, they already had internet access here. With internet and food, it was fine even if they had to stay for another month. The fuck, Fang Zhao, you are trending on social media platforms again. Wu Tianhao was browsing through the news. He had originally wanted to show off his handsome photo, but he hadn't expected to see his name at the top of the trending list the moment he logged into his account. Nanfeng was also abnormally excited. He had also seen it, and it wasn't any later than Wu Tianhao. However, he didn't dare believe it. He carefully gathered some information and asked around before walking over to explain to Fang Zhao. Boss, that Star Cups just ended recently. On the favorite celebrity rankings that they created, you are ranked first. Star Cup was a global extracurricular academic, technological, and entrepreneurial competition jointly organized by the Interplanetary Fund, the Global Association for Science and Technology, the Ministry of Education, and top institutions of higher learning in various continents. The name originated from the father of spaceships, Master Heng Exin. In his later years, Master Heng Exin had taken out a portion of his assets and established the Star Cup. When it was first established, Master Heng Exin had said this, "First place, I'll give. Profits, I'll give. Right here, come and take it if you have the ability." Star Cup was a top-notch challenge competition for the entire world's secondary school students. It was also known as the gathering place for geniuses. It was held once every 3 years, and every year at this time, all the renowned universities and large corporations would gather here to snatch people. Those that couldn't be snatched away would be reserved first. Some students who had made a name for themselves in the Star Cup Challenge competition had already been reserved by the top 100 corporations in the world before they had even stepped foot into university. It could be said that those who could participate in Star Cup were all elites. Those who could fight till the end were the elites of the elites. In certain aspects, they were considered genius-level students. And after Star Cup, there would be a celebratory party. According to the requirements of the students participating in the Star Cup Challenge competition, celebrities would be invited to the celebratory party. This was the norm. Who said that geniuses couldn't chase after celebrities? And the current voting rankings were derived from this. Only students who had participated in the Star Cup Challenge competition and passed the preliminaries had the right to vote. This couldn't be faked. Up until now, Fang Zhao was ranked first on the voting rankings. Nanfeng looked at Fang Zhao's expression and continued, "According to the norm, invited celebrities have to perform at the celebratory party. Boss, you have to be mentally prepared." Speaking in a trite tone. "Cough, I'm late. There will be more on Saturday night." Chapter 403. The voting period hadn't ended, but the advantage in the number of votes was too obvious. Nanfeng had no choice but to make preparations in advance. "Boss, if you receive an invitation from the organizers, you probably won't reject it, right?" Nanfeng asked. "No," Fang Zhao replied. Let me think about the performance. Alright. Based on the current situation, Fang Zhao would definitely be invited. As a positive role model promoted by authoritative media outlets, he wouldn't be blocked out if he didn't have any serious flaws. In reality, it was just as Nan Feng thought. After the organizers saw the voting results, they didn't wait for the voting to end before contacting Fang Zhao and inviting him to participate in Star Cup's victory ceremony. Mo Lang didn't wish for Fang Zhao to participate in any other activities after returning, but he couldn't refuse. Star Cup's significance was different. He had no choice but to agree. Fortunately, Fang Zhao's graduation concert proposal was satisfactory. The progress wasn't bad. The fact that Fang Zhao was able to come up with so many things meant that Fang Zhao had been preparing for his graduation concert and hadn't been delayed by any other matters. However, before the Star Cup victory ceremony, Mo Lang called Fang Zhao over for supplementary lessons and made amendments to Fang Zhao's graduation concert proposal. Thus, Fang Zhao didn't have much time to go out after returning to school. Zhao had gone to Huangzhou to play and saved up for a meal, but Fang Zhao hadn't been able to go out either. Zhao felt that it was a pity that Fang Zhao didn't come out. My bro really wants to meet you. Oh, he was also invited by the Star Cup organizers. You guys will meet when the time comes. Which one? Fang Zhao asked. He was a little curious. Bobo, Chu Bo, nicknamed Bomber. He is the one ranked second on the Star Cup's most popular celebrity rankings. After ending the call with Fang Zhao, Zhao contacted the people on his contact list one by one. Since he had gone to Planet Boo to participate in poverty alleviation, it had been a long time since he had met up with his gang of scoundrels. Zhao also contacted Danky Assis. Come out and have some fun. Not free, I have to take care of the kid. Danky really wanted to come out and have fun, but he couldn't find the time. He had completed the initial task his dad had given him, but perhaps because he had taken care of the kid too well, the higher-ups were too lazy to replace him. Every once in a while, they would send him over to play with Little Bear. Coincidentally, he wasn't free today. While Zhao was helping the poor on Planet Boo, he had learned from his pack of scoundrels that Danky had brought a child with him and had jumped up in shock. People like them might have fun, but there was a limit to it. When they heard that Danky was taking care of a child at home, they couldn't help but think about many things. It was only after Danky came out to explain that they realized that Danky was a crown prince of the Interplanetary Fund. Thus, they no longer joked around with that child and merely rejoiced in his misfortune. Isn't the mission complete? How long has it been? Zhao was puzzled. New mission. That child is probably going to school somewhere and will only come out during the holidays. In any case, I will be called over to play with the child every once in a while. Danky sounded exhausted. Alright, another day then. Bobo is coming to Huangzhou today and will be staying in the Imperial City for a period of time. Let's meet again then. Zhao had his own private residence in Huangzhou. Every time he met someone, he would meet there. Not long after ending the call with Danky, the Bobos he was talking about arrived. Chu Bo was from Jianzhou's super aristocratic Chu family and a descendant of a great general. His status was similar to Zhao's in Lijiu. Their personalities were also similar. They were ruthless when it came to insulting others. The difference was that Zhao was straightforward when it came to insulting others. Whatever method others used against him, he would return it the same way. If someone insulted him on social media, he would directly insult them back. However, Chu Bo was different. Regardless of where or how someone insulted him, he loved to write the words he wanted to say into his lyrics and scold them back. Chu Bo had a head of dazzling blonde hair. After arriving at Zhao's residence, he scanned the area. No one is here? He's on the way. Danky can't come. He's at home taking care of the child. You know the one. Still taking care of him? Chu Bo didn't pay much attention and asked, what about Fang Zhao? Is he coming? He can't come. His teacher has locked him out for lessons. Are all the teachers in the 12 Tones advanced course so strict? They weren't like this even when I was in class back then. Chu Bo searched online. That's not right. Isn't his direct teacher Professor Carter? Professor Carter is giving lectures overseas these 2 days. Who is the one teaching Fang Zhao today? Professor Carter? I'm not sure. Zhao recalled his conversation with Feng Zhao. However, when I was talking to him, he seemed to be saying something to someone. I didn't hear what he said clearly, but I think he called Teacher Mo or someone else. Mo Lang? Chu Bo got excited and rubbed his hands together. This won't do. When I meet Feng Zhao, I will definitely have a good chat with him. Chu Bo had always been paying attention to Feng Zhao. Because they were of similar ages and were both music-related, it was unavoidable for people to compare them even though their paths were different. Especially in the voting this time. Feng Zhao had obtained first place by a large margin while Chu Bo was second. It wasn't that he wasn't convinced. He was just more curious about Feng Zhao. He had originally thought that he would be able to meet Feng Zhao today, but he hadn't expected that the 12 Tones Advanced course would be so strict. Fortunately, they had both been invited by the Star Cup organizers and would be able to meet when the time came. Hey, Zhao, you have interacted with Feng Zhao for a long time on Planet Boo. How is he normally? Are the testimonials published by the military newspapers real? Chubo asked. While Chubo was inquiring about Feng Zhao, who had been called to Mo Lang's home for a lesson, rested in the study after listening to Mo Lang's analysis and evaluation of his thesis. Mo Lang was getting on in years after all and didn't have much time or energy to teach Feng Zhao. He would rest after class and Feng Zhao would spend most of the time alone. There were all sorts of professional books in the study as well as Mo Lang's manuscripts that couldn't be seen outside. After Feng Zhao finished organizing his thesis, he searched for Chu Bo's personal information during his break. Prior to this, Feng Zhao had watched Chu Bo's concert videos and had also seen the various entertainment media reports on Chu Bo's personal experiences. Chu Bo was born in a military family and had always obtained straight A's from kindergarten to university. However, he wasn't the obedient type and had an unruly temperament. Later on, he had been admitted to Jinzhou's best university with excellent grades and formed a band for fun. After attending university for 2 years, he realized that he still loved singing more. Thus, it was as if he had suddenly found his true love and used another half a year to complete his studies. He graduated early and entered the neighboring music academy, which was also the best arts academy in the entire Jinzhou. This matter had made it to the headlines of the various Jinzhou media. Some people said that he was willful, but he had the capital to be willful. Some people also said that he had a personality. For example, many adolescent students liked this type of person who didn't walk the normal path. Chu Bo liked to use incisive words to express his thoughts under the strong rhythms of machines and electronics. He didn't care what others thought of him. Just like last year, at the beginning of the year, Chu Bo had released an extremely aggressive punk song that was sought after by many punk music lovers. However, right after that, he had adapted an extremely famous decadent punk song into hard rock. Although it sold like hotcakes, it was boycotted by many punk fans and turned from fans to haters. He would sharply criticize some bad phenomena in his songs, and he would suddenly sing a rap to criticize people when the atmosphere of the concert was at its most intense, and he would even change the lyrics. He had also written a positive, strong, and sunny song for a suicidal fan. He had also written an alternative rock song for those who had died in a terrorist attack. It was a song that prayed for good fortune in the afterlife. Some people said that he was making use of that terrorist attack to gain popularity. However, on the 7th day after the terrorist attack, Chu Bo had released an extremely powerful anti-terrorist song. At that time, a well-known musician had evaluated him. When violence is incorporated, a song is better than a gun. After that, it was rumored that Chu Bo had made it onto some people's assassination list because of this anti-terrorist song. The Chu family had locked him up for a month before letting him out, and Chu Bo always had many bodyguards by his side. However, there were also people who said that Chu Bo always had many bodyguards by his side because he dared to sing about anything and had offended many people with his cheap mouth. During a concert, he had even made an impromptu rap to attack a rather popular film emperor. Forget about terrorists, many people wanted to beat him up. As long as he couldn't control that mouth of his, even if he wasn't assassinated, he would still be banned sooner or later. Some people hated him to the core, but there were also people who really liked him. Especially among secondary school students, Chubo's popularity had never dropped. If one only counted within the Jinzhou region, he would definitely be the star with the highest number of votes among secondary school students. Globally, academics didn't like Chubo's style. Chubo didn't have a high status in the music industry, but he was still extremely popular among secondary school students. Chubo had also been invited to the Star Cup victory ceremony last year. This year, after accumulating popularity, he originally had the chance to become the most popular celebrity in the Star Cup. On the day that the voting results had been released, many students from Jinzhou had protested. Fang Zhao watched the Chubo in the concert video. This kind of person stood on stage, unbridled, and ostentatious. It was as if his entire body was glowing like a blazing little sun. When his radiance was at its brightest, his mouth would always follow his heart and couldn't be covered up. Indeed, as the media had commented, Chubo would really change his lyrics when the atmosphere was intense. From time to time, Fang Zhao would see the words or beeps appear in the subtitles at the bottom of the screen. When the atmosphere was at its peak, the frequency of harmony was also the highest. That wasn't a good habit. Thinking about the Star Cup victory ceremony, Chubo wouldn't have cursed at such an occasion, right? Chapter 404. As this was the first time he had received such an invitation, Nanfeng didn't know much. While Fang Zhao was being held back by Old Master Mo Lang for supplementary lessons, Nanfeng, Zuiyu, and Yan Biao went to the venue to take a look and ask the staff there. Students participating in the Star Cup Challenge competition were staying in a hotel. The venue was right beside the hotel. When Nanfeng and the other two arrived, they could see students in uniforms from various continents walking around. There were also some reporters waiting in the hotel lobby. Some were from educational journals, and some were from entertainment. Some were able to arrange interviews with students, while others were waiting for opportunities. The person who received Nanfeng was a member of the Science and Technology Association. As Fang Zhao didn't need to stay in the hotel, Nanfeng got the other party to bring them to the venue. Nanfeng's focus was on the organizers' arrangements and requirements, while Zuiyu and Yan Biao's focus was on checking out the venue. As bodyguards, they had to familiarize themselves with the venue and ensure Fang Zhao's safety. It had to be said that the Star Cup organizers were very protective of these genius students. While Zuiyu and Yan Biao were checking out the venue, Nanfeng had already learned from the Science and Technology Association staff about the victory ceremony's arrangements and procedures. He had also taken notes on the things he needed to take note of. What's over there? Nanfeng pointed to the door at the end of the passageway. The door was ajar, and voices could be heard coming from it. That's a conference room. A few teams of students are having an exchange today, the Science and Technology Association staff member explained. Can I go over and take a look? Nanfeng asked. He was very curious about those young elites. Sure. In the conference room, a few leading teachers were chatting and laughing in a corner. As the Star Cup Challenge competition had ended, they were very relaxed. As for the students, they gathered in groups of 3 to 5 to discuss their research directions. This bunch of brats. Modifying spaceships and space warships? Their bragging is a little too big, but it's good to have such ambitions. The Science and Technology Association staff member who had brought Nanfeng over laughed. After listening for a while, he felt that some of the things these young students said weren't realistic enough. No matter how much they said, the theories involved too much knowledge. He wasn't a researcher, so he didn't express his opinion. As for Nanfeng, he had a blank look on his face ever since he entered. Nanfeng was originally in high school, but he realized that he couldn't understand what these students were saying. He could understand a few words here and there, but when they were put together, he couldn't understand them. Because they were already middle school students, many of the students were very tall. Height was Nanfeng's sore point. After entering, not only was his intelligence suppressed, but he couldn't even find an advantage in height. He had no sense of existence at all, which made Nanfeng very depressed. When the two strangers came in, the students only glanced at them and didn't look at them anymore. Some of them were chatting happily and didn't even notice the newcomers, completely ignoring them. "Who are you?" Finally, a student asked. His gaze swept across the staff card of the Science and Technology Association member before looking at Nanfeng. Nanfeng didn't have any identification on him. "Ahem, I'm the staff member. I'm here to take a look at the celebratory feast." Nanfeng was too embarrassed to say that he was Feng Zhao's assistant. If he couldn't answer the students' questions, wouldn't he be embarrassing his boss? Hearing that Nanfeng was also a staff member, the curious students immediately lost interest. Seeing that the student in front of him wasn't participating in the group discussion, Nanfeng asked, "Who did you vote for this time's celebrity vote?" "Feng Zhao," the student said. "I like Feng Zhao's music." Nanfeng was delighted. He continued asking, "Is it the legendary divine tune for brushing questions?" He remembered reading about a student who liked to listen to Feng Zhao's music while brushing questions. "No, I listen to it when I'm doing experiments. It gives me a sense of purpose," the student replied. Won't you be criticized for listening to music while doing experiments?" Nanfeng didn't understand. The student was baffled. "Why would I be criticized for listening to music in my own laboratory?" Nanfeng. Your own laboratory." Nanfeng laughed awkwardly. To not expose his ignorance, Nanfeng asked the second student, who also said that he liked to listen to music while doing experiments. Nanfeng sighed. "It's freedom in your own laboratory." However, the student looked at Nanfeng as if he was an idiot. "Of course it's the school's laboratory. We applied for a laboratory and funding. What makes a poor student like me think that I can support such expensive experiments?" "Then you said you were listening to music in the laboratory." "I wore headphones." Nanfeng. "I feel like I didn't bring my brain today." "Do you know Feng Zhao well?" the student suddenly asked. "Not really, so." "I guess," Nanfeng stammered. "That means you know him better." The student nodded. "I have a question to ask. Can Feng Zhao really hear infrasound below 20 Hz and ultrasonic waves above 20 kHz? Of course, this isn't the main point. What I'm more curious about is whether he can accurately distinguish two tones that are 1 Hz apart when the frequency is above 4000 Hz. Also, Nanfeng. Goodbye. As a qualified assistant, Nanfeng didn't want to discuss his boss's precious ears with others. After leaving the venue, Nanfeng immediately sent a message to Feng Zhao, "Boss. This bunch of brats are peeping at your ears." Nanfeng reported to Feng Zhao what he had seen and felt at the venue, as well as his conversations with the students. He had to let Feng Zhao be prepared in case he was stumped by those brats. Feng Zhao chuckled when he saw Nanfeng's message. He then put this matter aside and continued writing his thesis. Mo Lang had agreed to attend the Star Cup victory ceremony, but he had to finish his thesis before then. The day before the victory ceremony, Feng Zhao and the other invited guests arrived at the venue. The organizers had held a small meeting in advance. At the venue, Feng Zhao saw the golden-haired Chu Bo. Other than them, there were also world-renowned football stars, movie stars, hosts of secondary school TV shows, and so on. They might not necessarily be in the same circles, but without exception, they were all very famous. A few of them were also familiar faces from the Star Cup victory ceremony. There are quite a few bodyguards around. Chu Bo Tian Biao scanned the area and said in a low voice, "There are still some outside the venue." The one beside Chu Bo, the one with the square face and short brown hair. "I think I've seen him before." Zuiyu thought for a bit but couldn't recall where he had seen him. "The cemetery guard," Feng Zhao replied. Yes. "Boss, did we see that fella when we went to Jinzhou's cemetery for martyrs?" Zuiyu remembered that when Feng Zhao had gone to the various continents' cemetery for martyrs to pay his respects, he had been stopped by the cemetery guards to check his identity. Cemetery guard? Nanfeng was flabbergasted. He knew about the tomb guards. Only a group of people with extremely sharp senses would be transferred to the cemetery to guard the tomb. After the deadline, they would be transferred to some important positions. In the army, it was also a special unit that was considered one of the secret weapons. Even if they were transferred to be bodyguards, they would be protecting important people. Although Chu Bo's family background played a part in being able to transfer a cemetery guard as a bodyguard, Nan Feng somewhat believed the rumors. Perhaps Chu Bo was really on someone's assassination list. Otherwise, the Chu family wouldn't have transferred a cemetery guard over. What a precious resource! Zhao, Wu Tianhao, Barbara, and Midasi didn't receive such treatment. They were discussing whether Chu Bo's mouth had attracted too much hatred and had no choice but to transfer such a special personnel over to protect his personal safety. On the other side, Chu Bo was also conversing with the bodyguard beside him. The security measures here are very good. Star Cup students are all future elite researchers. Talents are precious, and the organizers place great importance on their safety. Chu Bo paused as he spoke and lowered his voice to ask the person beside him, "Have you discovered any dangerous individuals? You have been tense ever since you came in." "I have," the former cemetery guard and current bodyguard replied. Chu Bo's smile vanished, and his expression immediately eased up. However, his nerves were also tense. It wasn't easy to pass through the numerous security checks outside the venue and enter. He had originally wanted to go over and greet Fang Zhao, but he wasn't in the mood after hearing the bodyguard's words. "Where is he?" Chu Bo's voice was somewhat stiff. "Same row as us, seat 05 on the left." Chu Bo pretended to casually glance over. His line of sight paused, and he confirmed once more as though he didn't believe it. "Sitting in the same row as us, seat 05 on the left. Fang Zhao?" Honestly speaking, Chu Bo would also believe it if it was the person beside Fang Zhao. That person had a baleful aura. Although he had already tried his best to conceal it, the other party was wary of his surroundings and had revealed a slight reaction when he saw the bodyguards beside Chu Bo. He was probably a garrison soldier from some alien base. There were quite a few such people among his bodyguards, and Chu Bo was very familiar with them. "Fang Zhao?" Seeing that Chu Bo didn't believe him, the former cemetery guard continued, "I saw him at the cemetery in the past. He wasn't that famous back then, and my intuition told me that this person was very dangerous. I can't tell now, but that doesn't mean that he isn't dangerous. He just hides himself even more deeply. I feel that this kind of person's danger level is rising." Chu Bo relaxed upon hearing that it was Fang Zhao and chuckled. "Your occupational disease is acting up. I know people like Fang Zhao. He is the genius type. Bu Base even flaunted his glorious achievements some time ago. I can only admire this kind of person. He is the type that has seen blood. Furthermore, his hands are definitely stained with quite a lot of blood," the former cemetery guard said with certainty. "Now that you mention it, the internal rumors that his military merits during his military service were actually obtained by slaughtering many terrorists should be true." Chu Bo was excited, and his desire to befriend Fang Zhao intensified. "I feel that he isn't dangerous at all." The former cemetery guard was anxious. His orders were to keep Chu Bo away from dangerous people. From his point of view, Fang Zhao was a well-concealed knife that would draw blood the moment it was unsheathed. Although Fang Zhao had indeed performed many meritorious deeds and many big shots in the military thought highly of Fang Zhao, the former cemetery guard's first impression of Fang Zhao was too deep. Back then, when he had met Fang Zhao's eyes at the Jinzhou cemetery, he had been itching to sound the entire region's alarm. Even now, that feeling was still very clear. To put it simply, he had a psychological shadow over Fang Zhao, a very big one. However, no matter how this former cemetery guard persuaded him, Chu Bo felt that there was nothing to be afraid of when it came to someone who was so dedicated to music and had such attainments. See you tomorrow. Chapter 405. Let's see if we can double update it tomorrow. Tomorrow's update: Fort Future Heavenly King, currently typing. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 406. Fang Zhao was currently reading a small booklet distributed by the organizers. There were various matters to take note of and arrangements on it. Chu Bo swayed his dazzling golden hair as he walked over. Nanfeng glanced at Feng Zhao. When he saw Feng Zhao tilt his head slightly, Nanfeng shifted to the side and vacated a seat for Chubo. Feng Zhao, I have long heard of your name. Zaro saved up a meal and wanted to meet you, but it's a pity you didn't have time. I know you, Chubo. Feng Zhao chuckled. Chubo's smile widened when he saw that Feng Zhao didn't seem to have any intention of distancing himself. After sitting down, he started chatting with Feng Zhao and even asked about Planet Bu's certification. Chubo had already understood from Zaro that Feng Zhao's certification was real and that he had obtained more than what the officials had released. This greatly piqued Chubo's curiosity. 10 minutes later, Chubo put his arm around Feng Zhao's shoulder and chatted as though they were good brothers. His former gravekeeper bodyguard panicked and hurriedly sent a message to Chubo's agent. Chubo's agent was also a member of the Chu family. However, he had gone to discuss a collaboration today and wasn't here. Because the occasion wasn't right, Chubo didn't ask Feng Zhao about his military service on planet Baiji. However, he had heard some things from other people. Coupled with the information he had just obtained from his conversation with Feng Zhao, he knew that 99% of Feng Zhao's military merits during his military service back then were real. There was the factor of and also the factor of fighting terrorists. Chubo admired people like Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao didn't have the ability to act on his own and knew his own limitations. He could only rely on his mouth to defeat terrorists and had even been warned by his family. After all, this was the Star Cup victory ceremony venue and there were other people nearby. Chubo didn't ask too much about military matters. After chatting for a while, he noticed that Feng Zhao didn't seem impatient and didn't intend to leave. What do you intend to do for the Star Cup victory ceremony tomorrow? Play a song for them on the spot. Guitar or piano? Feng Zhao replied. Chubo's heart stirred when he heard Feng Zhao say this. Why don't we collaborate? He had said this to probe and observe Feng Zhao's expression. How do we collaborate? Feng Zhao asked. Pick a piece of yours. You can play it and I will sing it. You don't have to worry. I can sing it. Chubo wasn't bragging. He was an expert at improvisation. Feng Zhao considered it for a while. Just as Chubo thought that Feng Zhao would reject, Feng Zhao said, pick your song. Chubo stared blankly for a moment before a wide smile appeared on his face once again. His previous smile could only be considered enthusiastic, but now it was more sincere. Then let's sing together. Chubo said. There's no need. You sing, I'll accompany. Feng Zhao had seen Chubo's concert and knew that he wasn't used to Chubo's style. Chubo rubbed his hands excitedly. Shall we discuss this properly after the meeting? Sure. Sigh. It's a deal. Chubo returned to his seat after seeing that the organizers had all arrived. However, he didn't really listen to the organizers' formulaic language. It was the same every time, and he knew what they were going to say even without listening. His mind was completely occupied by the collaboration. He was going to perform with Feng Zhao on the same stage tomorrow. Just thinking about it made him excited. Chubo rarely performed with others on the same stage. Not to mention concerts, he couldn't even chat with other special guests when he was invited to participate in programs. He didn't have many good friends. It was reasonable to say that members of great generals' families didn't lack people trying to curry favor with them. For example, Zaro and Wu Tianhao always had all sorts of people by their side. However, Chubo was different. Many people were afraid of being implicated because of that mouth of his. Furthermore, when news of his assassination attempt spread, there were even fewer people who got close to him. Zaro and the others didn't mind, but others might not. Thus, when Chubo had mentioned collaboration, he had been trying to sound out Feng Zhao. He was worried that Feng Zhao didn't understand the situation or that he had misunderstood. However, now it seemed that Feng Zhao wasn't someone who was afraid of trouble. Chubo was happy to have made another friend, and one that he thought highly of. After the organizers' meeting ended, Chubo dragged Feng Zhao to his resting place. He had a residence in Huangqing that had been remodeled into a studio and recording studio. Chubo picked out 10 or so songs that he was satisfied with. Feng Zhao picked out another 3. These 3 songs are fine. They are suitable for Star Cup stage. Then which song will we be singing? Chubo asked. The organizers have given us a slightly longer performance time. We can perform all 3 songs together. Skewers. Chu Bo understood Fang Zhao's intentions. That's a good idea. However, we have to make some changes. Both of them were professionals. Fang Zhao's composing and arranging abilities were strong, and Chu Bo wasn't weak either. Making changes wasn't difficult. As they had to discuss the matter of performing on the same stage, Chu Bo let Fang Zhao and his bodyguards rest here. Boss, why don't I go back and take a look? Curly Hair is still at home. Nan Feng was worried about Curly Hair, who had been left behind in Huang Art's advanced student dormitory. No need. There is an automatic feeding machine. Although this was what he said, Fang Zhao still sent a voice message to the dormitory. He only needed to let Curly Hair know why he wasn't back. There was no need to send someone back. Curly Hair would surely be gaming all night. Early the next morning, Chu Bo's agent came over. This is my agent and also my eldest nephew, Chu Yang. Chu Bo introduced him to Fang Zhao. Chu Yang was slightly older than Chu Bo and was also a member of the Chu family. It was just that his seniority was lower than Chu Bo's, so Chu Bo always addressed him as eldest nephew. Chu Yang seemed more composed. After greeting Fang Zhao and the others, he took a look at the song that Chu Bo and Fang Zhao had collaborated on. His eyes flashed with satisfaction. It should be fine if they followed this. It wouldn't be easy to let loose when singing. There was no choice. He was worried. As Chu Bo's agent, Chu Yang was afraid that Chu Bo would be too unrestrained on a stage like Star Cup and cause his future arrangements to be unable to be carried out. Fang Zhao even saw Zaro on his way to the Star Cup victory ceremony venue. Zaro wouldn't pass up an opportunity to join in on the fun at such an occasion. He hadn't been invited, but he had found the organizers to donate a laboratory and obtained a spot. It wasn't time yet, so Zaro was chatting with Chu Bo and Fang Zhao in the lounge. Bobo, I listened to those songs you recommended. They are quite good. I have also heard of them before. Our continent has someone called Alex. His style is similar to yours. Chu Bo looked as though he had suffered a huge blow. Our styles are obviously different. Alex mainly sings neo-metal. Although I also sing neo-metal, my style is more diverse. Furthermore, Alex's songs are more violent and extreme. Chu Bo rambled on and on about the differences between himself and Alex, from the style of music to the lyrics to the core of the songs. When he was done, Zaro still had a silly look on his face. Chu Bo took a deep breath and thought for a bit. To put it simply, we are both dissing people. My song is Come On. Come at me if you have the guts. Let's fight head on. As for Alex, his song is Let's Go to Hell Together. Oh yeah. Zaro clapped his hands. Got it? Fang Zhao smiled as he watched them from the side. Fang Zhao also knew about the Liezhou singer Alex that Zaro was talking about. They both sang metal and both had a violent element to their songs. Chu Bo's style was violent in correction, while Alex's style was violent in destruction. The core of the song was different, but for people who didn't like to delve too deeply into it, especially people like Zaro who weren't interested in it, there wasn't much of a difference. As they were chatting, Chu Yang came in. As Chu Bo's agent, he was even more anxious than Chu Bo. Glancing at the other people in the lounge, Chu Yang raised a finger at Chu Bo, indicating that he should go to a separate room to talk. You guys chat first. My nephew is looking for me. Chu Bo got up and left. Seeing Chu Bo leave, Zaro tiptoed to the side of the separate room and pressed his ear against it to eavesdrop. He even waved at Fang Zhao and said, "Come over and listen together." Fang Zhao smiled and shook his head. He didn't need to. Inside the separate room, Chu Yang told Chu Bo about the results of his travels over the past few days. Because Chu Bo liked to spout vulgarities after he got high, his concerts had been banned by the various continents' cultural bureaus. 9 out of the 12 continents had refused to allow Chu Bo to hold live concerts. He couldn't control his mouth and wouldn't give him any face. However, if he wanted to raise his popularity and expand his global fame, he still had to think of ways to hold concerts. This sort of fame was like grinding experience and honing one's qualifications in the music industry. Being popular online didn't count for much. So what if he was popular among secondary school students? Wouldn't he still be laughed at in secret by many of his peers? Just like how Fang Zhao needed to use concerts to prove himself, Chu Bo had to hold live concerts no matter what. Chu Yang had already negotiated with partners. As long as Chu Bo performed well at the Star Cup victory ceremony, they would bend the rules a little. I understand. Chu Bo nodded his head, indicating that he understood. Following that, he excitedly said, "This time, I will be collaborating with Fang Zhao. I will pick 3 of my favorite songs and skewer them. We rehearsed yesterday and the results are really great. That Fang Zhao guy really has some ability. No wonder he was able to get into the legendary God-level advanced course." Chu Bo. What's up? I haven't finished talking yet. Do you still remember what I said? What did you say? Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. I remember. Chu Bo repeatedly guaranteed. Chu Yang patted Chu Bo's shoulders heavily and stared straight into his eyes. He revealed an encouraging smile and said unhurriedly, "I don't care what you are going to do. Perform well. If you don't learn your lesson this time, when the victory ceremony is over. Nephew Gu? I will turn you into barbecued pork." Chu Bo. Under Chu Yang's pressuring gaze, Chu Bo solemnly said, "Don't worry, Nephew Gu." Speaking in a trite tone originally, he had wanted to update both chapters at the same time. The second chapter wasn't finished yet and would be updated tomorrow. Chapter 407. The various continents' cultural bureaus refused to allow Chu Bo to hold a concert, fearing that it would have a bad influence and that something might happen. Chu Bo's mouth was too good at stirring up trouble. Many people had teased Chu Bo for his habit of cursing when he was excited. Every concert, there would be people waiting for this point to start flaming him. This time, many reporters had also thought of ways to enter the Star Cup. Because the Star Cup's victory ceremony wasn't broadcasted live, many reporters weren't satisfied with the edited videos and had edited out the highlights. For videos that involved Chu Bo, the original version was naturally better. Therefore, even those reporters who hadn't received an invitation would think of ways to obtain an admission ticket. This was especially so for the entertainment reporters from Jinzhou. They fully displayed their professional skills just to obtain an admission ticket. It was very difficult to sneak in without an official ticket. The security was too strict. The students were especially excited today. Even those who usually kept a straight face were smiling. A reporter took a few photos of the venue and complained to his colleague, "There's no program list." It can't be helped. Those students suggested it themselves. Actually, there was a program list for the Star Cup's victory celebration at the beginning. However, the students who participated in the challenge later felt that there would be no more surprises if there was a program list. Therefore, they suggested to the organizers to remove the program list, which resulted in the current situation. Of course, the invited guests had already prepared their programs. They just had to follow the arrangements of the organizers. Fang Zhao and Chu Bo's performance was 5th, and they were neither up nor down. Taking advantage of the fact that it wasn't their turn yet, Chu Bo rehearsed with Fang Zhao for a while. Chu Bo always brought his own band when he performed, and the typical accompaniment band couldn't keep up with his tempo. Concerts were all live accompaniment, not recorded accompaniment. He was not used to recording accompaniment. Only live accompaniment would give him the feeling. The most important point was that Chu Bo always liked to improvise, and a pre-recorded accompaniment was too restrictive for him. It affected his performance, and he had emotions when he sang. As for lip-syncing, Chu Bo didn't lip-sync. On the contrary, many people hoped that he would lip-sync, because once he was on the platform, no one could control him. Every performance was something that could not be replicated. For example, every time he got high from singing, he would lash out at people. Many of Jinzhou's celebrities, from celebrities to politicians, he would lash out at those that others did not dare to lash out at, and he would always hit the nail on the head. Chu Bo's manager, Chu Yang, looked at the time and exhorted Chu Bo once more before he went on stage. "Watch your mouth after you go on stage." Sit. When Chu Bo heard the staff instruct them to prepare to go on stage, he hurriedly nodded his head and looked at himself in the mirror. From his hair to the soles of his shoes, he felt that he was really handsome to the point of vomiting blood today. He took a photo of himself and posted it on social media to show off. Compared to Chu Bo's flamboyant style, Feng Zhao was more reserved. Chu Bo scrutinized him and said to Feng Zhao, "You will be suppressed by my radiance if you wear this. Do you want to change? I brought several sets of clothes with me." Nan Feng nodded his head inwardly. Previously, he had also suggested that Feng Zhao wear something brighter. Although this outfit was suitable, compared to Chu Bo, it was clearly much less eye-catching. "There's no need. This will do," Feng Zhao replied. At the venue, the world-famous football star sang a song and interacted with the students before leaving the stage. 2 lucky students were selected to interact with him on stage. They took the signed jerseys, returned to their seats, and carefully folded the jerseys. They planned to bring them back to the hotel after the performance to buy a delicate box to take home. "I wonder who's going up next? There are only 5 left." The reporters were also discussing in low voices. "When did Chu Bo go up? Is there any insider news?" "My camera is ready. I'm just waiting for him," a young reporter from Jinzhou said. "I'm different from you guys. I'm here mainly to film Feng Zhao. It's an assignment from the chief editor." As he was speaking, the lights dimmed and the curtains were pulled open. The grayish-blue lights cast a circular spot on the stage. Within the circular spot, a person was sitting in front of a piano. The melodious sound of the piano kicked off. It was like a wasteland under the night sky, filled with lush greenery. When the students saw the person in front of the piano, they burst into enthusiastic applause. They were still very interested in Feng Zhao. The reporters also started to get busy. "Feng Zhao? Not bad, performing a piano solo? But why does this melody sound a little familiar?" That reporter hadn't even finished speaking when an explosive sound rang out. The students and reporters below the stage were all stunned. Finally, there was a roar of applause and shouts. There was no one else but Chu Bo who could sing such a unique style. Chu Bo? A joint performance. It's actually a joint performance between Feng Zhao and Chu Bo. I really didn't expect that these two would cooperate, especially the reporters from Jinzhou. When they heard the song, they even suspected that they were hallucinating. Otherwise, why would they hear Chu Bo's voice during Feng Zhao's performance? They couldn't be blamed for being so astonished. Chu Bo had always performed alone. It was extremely rare to see him perform with others on the same stage. Otherwise, it was a deliberate arrangement for the program to coordinate with others. However, a stage like Star Cup was still rather formal. Chu Bo wouldn't usually perform with others on a more formal stage. No, it should be said that very few people were willing to cooperate with Chu Bo on a formal stage. Then why would Feng Zhao agree to perform with Chu Bo? This was a topic that could be hyped up. After regaining their senses, the entertainment reporters who had obtained their admission tickets with great difficulty became even busier. On the stage, under the dim spotlights, a figure walked out from the back of the stage. The students erupted in even more intense screams. One could see Chu Bo's status in the hearts of the students from this scene. If it wasn't for Feng Zhao being used as a benchmark by the military newspaper and arousing the intense curiosity of these students, their voting results might not have exceeded Chu Bo's. The 3 songs that Feng Zhao had chosen were all written by Chu Bo for secondary school students. When these 3 songs were strung together, it was like a miniature version of Chu Bo's student series. Feng Zhao had done his research on the background of the compositions. There had once been a fan who had been in secondary school who had written a letter to Chu Bo. Apart from expressing his admiration, he had also written about his predicament and asked about his fucked-up youth. When he reached secondary school, he was one step closer to adulthood. His way of thinking had taken a leap. Although he hadn't officially stepped into society, he had already started to come into contact with and understand all sorts of people in society. That student had told Chu Bo that he had walked towards his youth with a longing for youth. He had carried enthusiasm and hope through the 4 seasons, but he had discovered that the world was far from perfect and was filled with flaws. He had seen the painful, miserable, and filthy side of the world. The so-called youth was nothing more than a farce interwoven with mistakes and endlessly beautified by scholars. He had been plagued by all sorts of troubles during puberty and had endured pressure from all sides. Too many tears, too many cries, all of it had been drowned in the endless darkness. He felt very tired and very painful. He didn't know whether this stage was the springboard for his dreams or a grave. He was very perplexed. He didn't know whether the pain of youth had already been extended. How could he find his place in this world? Should he still persist in following his original path? Even if he told his parents, they wouldn't understand. He loathed everything in this world, including himself. After that, Chu Bo composed a few songs that people jokingly referred to as the secondary school series. The 3 songs that Fang Zhao had chosen had been strung together after being adapted. The first segment was like a misty cloud. It was indistinct, like a train passing through the wilderness and entering a sleeping city. Perplexed people sat in the carriage, looking out at the world outside the window. Occasionally, there would be an imposing figure standing alone or indulging in unbridled joy. The second segment was like the first appearance of a sky full of stars. Under the thick inky sky, bright yellow and serene blue flowed brilliantly. The psychedelic colors magnified all sorts of desires, enticing the people who came. The third segment was like a blazing flame extending towards the sky. It wasn't to destroy everything but rather to illuminate the dark night. For many people like the fan who wrote the letter, Chu Bo was a kind of sustenance. He was the spark that guided them to persevere in the dreams in their hearts. When they were in a haze, he gave them the strength to resolutely move forward. Fang Zhao also felt that Chu Bo was a pretty good kid. Most of his songs had a kind of positive momentum, except that his mouth was a bit annoying. The notes went from elegant to impassioned, and the lighting changed between the melody and the song. It went from gloomy, cold, to restless beams of light, and finally to fiery scarlet flames on the large screens. When the third segment entered, Fang Zhao stood up from the piano and took out an electric guitar that had been placed behind him. The guitar was Chu Bo's. Originally, Fang Zhao had planned on borrowing it from the main board. After confirming the collaboration, Chu Bo had handed over his own guitar to Fang Zhao. This instrument had been custom-made according to Chu Bo's requirements. The colors were bright, and the design was as flamboyant as Chu Bo's personality. It gave Fang Zhao a sense of visual aggression. The drumbeat behind him grew stronger as the venue heated up. The students became even more restless. It was as if they were using all their strength to scream and roar. Zero also let out weird shrieks. Fans loved Chu Bo's powerful aura on stage, his resolute gaze, his unrestrained personality, and his tensed energy that refused to admit defeat. Unlike in a recording studio, the body language in the venue burst forth with powerful energy. The emotions that gushed out expanded to every corner of the venue. A few self-restrained students were able to maintain their calm at the start, but their emotions quickly flared up. The atmosphere in the venue was too good. Today's mood was too wonderful. Chu Bo was too engrossed, and in his excitement he got high again. When Chu Bo got high, he had a well-known behavior, changing lyrics at the last minute. And once Chu Bo started to change his lyrics, there was an extremely high possibility that he would start to flame. Practically the moment Chu Bo's lyrics changed and entered an even more intense phase, the accompanying band behind him understood that a situation had arisen again. Even so, the accompanying band still cooperated and carried on. In any case, this sort of situation was very common, and Fang Zhao was already used to it. As for Fang Zhao, before Chu Bo's lyrics changed, he already had a premonition. When this situation occurred, Fang Zhao paused momentarily. He was considering whether to forcefully bring Chu Bo back to his original track or to cooperate with the accompanying band and carry on. In the end, he chose to cooperate with the accompanying band and carry on, taking a step forward. Off stage. Before Chu Bo changed his tune, although the reporters had obtained sufficient news today, they still felt a little regretful. When Chu Bo got high, he couldn't control his mouth and let it fly. Every incisive line would explode the venue. This kind of entertainment reporters loved, but it was a pity that they hadn't seen it until now. Looks like Chubo came prepared today. He hasn't gone off the rails yet. I heard that his manager, Chu Yang, who is rather capable in the entertainment circles, has been running around various continents to discuss collaborations. He wants to discuss Chubo's live concerts. My guess is that if Chubo can control himself well this time, he should be able to obtain approval for his subsequent concerts. No wonder Chubo is so restrained today. No, why do I feel that he is showing signs of going off the rails again? Is that so? The reporter's spirits were roused once again. Backstage, Chu Yang's suspenseful heart had never been at ease. When Chubo had started singing, Chu Yang had been silently chanting in his heart, "Control, control, control." As Chubo's manager and a fellow clansman, Chu Yang understood Chubo all too well. He had a bad premonition when Chubo's emotions got a little overheated. Chu Yang, don't, fuck. When he heard Chubo change his tune, Chu Yang couldn't help but curse out loud. He wiped his face with all his might, and his face instantly turned ashen and filled with despair. It's over, everything is over. Whatever concert, it's all over. Compared to Chu Yang's crumbling mood, the reporters were ecstatic. Chubo is singing high again. I wonder who he is going to flame today. As expected of our great Jinzhou's #1 flamer. He can fly even on the Star Cup stage. Right? Just like that. Let them see what it means to let loose like a runaway bull. What it means to be so powerful that it makes one's hair stand on end. Chubo, who was completely oblivious to everyone's mood, had really gotten high. He had gotten too high, and when he had entered this state, he had completely forgotten about everything else. His manager's words had already been tossed far away, and he had even forgotten that this was the Star Cup victory ceremony stage. It was just that when he swung his arm forcefully to the side, Chubo saw Fang Zhao standing not too far away. When he met Fang Zhao's gaze, his tongue suddenly tied into a knot. The vulgar words that were about to come out of his mouth were silenced by this momentary pause. The reporters who were gearing up for battle? Chu Yang stared at the stage in shock, as if he had seen a miracle. At this very moment, Chu Yang was crying tears of joy, his eyes brimming with hot tears. He did it. He actually really did it. Looks like Chubo still remembers what I said. Genius 1 second to remember website address. Apex mobile version websites. Chapter 408. Actually, a long time ago, Chubo's style wasn't like this. He was the same as Zero. If he had something to say, he would say it directly. Later on, when Chubo released his first solo album, his family members told Chubo, "You can be considered an artist now. You have to pay attention to your image and think about your career first if you encounter any problems." Chubo went back and thought about it. That was right. I'm a serious singer. An artist should use an artist's way to fight back. As the ancients said, a gentleman uses his mouth, not his fists. If you have a conflict, I won't hit you. I won't scold you on social media either. I'll write you into my lyrics and scold you out in a concert. Through practice, Chubo discovered that this method of venting was rather satisfying. Later on, it became a habit. Once he was excited and in high spirits, he would enter a state of forgetfulness. He would only remember what he was holding back in his heart and forget about everything else. Chubo had also made preparations for the Star Cup victory ceremony. Actually, Chubo was also aware of his bad habits. Thus, after Fang Zhao had selected 3 songs, he had rearranged them and made slight adjustments to the tempo and style. Although the core was still rock and roll, the accompaniment was slightly more lyrical at the start. This was especially so for the first and second segments. The changes to the first 2 songs were even greater, making them more suitable for Star Cup stage. Of course, the most important thing was that it could serve as a cooling effect on Chubo. Chu Yang's agent, Chu Yang, had seen the 3 songs that Fang Zhao and Chubo had rearranged, so he was very satisfied with this arrangement. Chubo's mood was good today, and he had made yet another friend. How happy! Once he was in a good mood, he would let loose on this relatively serious and formal stage. It could be said that by the 3rd verse, Chubo's mind was in a heated state, and he was suppressing his rationality. Come on. Fly free. Let's go high together. Unfortunately, just as Chubo was singing high and was about to sing the words he had been holding back, he saw Fang Zhao's expression. What kind of expression was that? With a hint of reproach, warning, and kindness? Chubo's heart trembled. In short, Chubo thought of his grandfather in that instant. The last time Chubo made a big fuss, he was called over by the old patriarch to criticize him. He had to write a report and a guarantee letter. He was locked up for a long period of time and received ideological education every day. Chubo didn't have any control over his voice being muffled. It was completely a conditioned reflex of his body. Just as he was singing to his heart's content, he turned around and discovered that the old man was beside him. All the hair on his body instantly stood on end, and his tongue unconsciously tied into a knot. Luckily, Chubo was very familiar with singing, and his professionalism was strong enough. The vulgar words that he hadn't uttered out of his mouth stopped for a moment, and before his rationality had completely taken over, he smoothly continued with the rest of the words. Chubo quickly regained his senses and continued singing. When he saw that the person standing beside him was Fang Zhao, he felt that he must have been singing too hard just now. Fortunately, the third segment was about to end. Chubo controlled the rhythm and recited the lyrics that had gone off track. Then he smoothly finished singing with the rhythm. At the same time, the students in the audience were fine. Even if they noticed the artificial muffling, they wouldn't think too deeply about it. What they liked was Chubo and his songs. As for the reporters who didn't know the inside story, they were so shocked that it was as if they had seen the sun rise from the west. When they had first seen Chubo singing high, the reporters who were familiar with Chubo's character had been secretly delighted. They had been waiting for Chubo to turn on his troll mode and start cursing. Who knew that Chubo would actually muffle his voice? That just now, was it muffled? Or did I not hear the lyrics clearly? A reporter thought that his hearing had deteriorated and he hadn't caught the keywords. I heard it the same as you. The reporter beside him had a face full of amazement. Many people thought that they were hearing things. What was even more unbelievable than Chubo singing high and cursing on the Star Cup stage was that Chubo was actually able to control his mouth and knew how to muffle his voice. This was simply a fantasy. After having debuted for so many years, if Chubo had this ability long ago, his status in the music industry would have been much higher. Why would he need to run all over the place to guarantee that he could hold a live concert? At this time, the reporters didn't think about anything else. The reporters who were rushing to write their articles also stopped what they were doing and listened attentively. They wanted to see if Chubo's artificial muffling was a coincidence or if Chubo already knew how to control himself. However, the reporters didn't hear Chubo curse even after he finished singing. Is the bomber really muffled today? Could it be that he doesn't dare to curse because there are elders from the Chu family sitting here? Some people started guessing the reason. That shouldn't be the case. I didn't receive any news. The atmosphere and emotions are in place. He was just about to explode, so why did he muffle his voice? Perhaps it's because his emotions weren't in place and Chubo didn't let go. I saw that he was in high spirits just now. I'm guessing that it's because of the concert. His manager is keeping an eye on him. In order to get his future concert applications approved, he has to learn self-control no matter how unwilling he is. Look, didn't he successfully control himself this time? He knows how to muffle his voice at a suitable place. Chubo's tempo is improving. Sigh, he was forced by the current situation. They were a little disappointed, but there were many things they could write about. Therefore, the reporters were in a pretty good mood, especially the Jinzhou reporters. They were already using their powerful imagination to come up with all sorts of reasons. Backstage, manager Chu Yang laughed excitedly as he walked over to Chubo. Little Bo, very good. Simply perfect. I originally thought that you would go off topic again, but it seems like I underestimated you. Chu Yang's eyes were red and filled with boundless emotion. He looked at Chubo as if he was looking at a pig that he had painstakingly raised for many years and could finally be sold for gold. However, Chubo didn't notice Chu Yang's strange gaze. He was currently in a daze. The performance on stage seemed to have exhausted all his energy. He supported his assistant and fell onto the sofa in the lounge. Zero had also arrived at this time. It was boring for him to be alone in the audience, so he came over to talk to Chubo. He gave him a thumbs up and praised him. "You're so dedicated. I saw you jumping on stage with your rich body movements. You sang the lyrics so fast and had to enunciate them clearly. I finally know how tiring it is to sing. Look at how sweaty you are." Chubo glanced at him but didn't respond. He was still panting and his legs were still trembling slightly. Zero continued, "Hey Bobo, you can't do this. Didn't you say that you were going to hold live concerts on various continents in the future? How many songs do you have to sing in a single performance? You can't even sing one song. Although your song was strung together from 3 songs and is longer than others, it's still not enough. You have to train more when you have time. Look at me. I worked so much when I went to Planet Boo to help the poor that my abs are even more obvious." Chubo took the towel from his assistant and wiped the sweat off his face and neck. Of course, he knew what Zero was talking about. Concerts required sufficient physical strength, but he wasn't like this normally. Not to mention one song, he wouldn't collapse even if he sang 10 songs. However, that song just now was more of a psychological impact and intimidation. In order to not let others see through him, he had to expend even more mental strength to maintain it. It was simply more tiring than singing 10 songs in a row. It was already good enough that he didn't stutter. "Hey Bobo, tell me. When you were singing just now, that hand gesture. How did you do it? It's pretty cool. Teach me when you have time." Zero gestured twice. Chubo came back to his senses and gave a perfunctory response. "Also, you should at least sing a duet with Feng Zhao. Even if Feng Zhao's singing isn't good, you should at least sing shoulder to shoulder. You can lead him in singing just like when we usually sing karaoke. Wouldn't that be fine?" Zero felt that Chubo wasn't a good friend and only cared about himself. Currently, Chubo was allergic to the name Feng Zhao. When he heard Zero mention Feng Zhao, embarrassment flashed across Chubo's face. He was embarrassed to tell others that he had mistaken Feng Zhao for his grandfather on stage and had nearly stuttered. As for a duet? Chubo shook his head vigorously. "My fucking legs are still wobbly." At this moment, Feng Zhao walked in from outside. Chubo quickly swept a glance at him before shifting his gaze away. After a short while, he looked back as though he was trying to find something from Feng Zhao's face. Chubo thought to himself, actually, Feng Zhao doesn't look like him anymore. Misconception. Everything is a misconception. I was just scaring myself. Luckily, the results of this performance were good, but this psychological shadow wouldn't be removed in the short term. Chubo recalled the predicament he had been in when he faced Feng Zhao. Ever since his debut, this was the first time he had been scared off the track while singing. In any case, Chubo didn't intend to tell others. It would be shameful. At the same time, he decided that he wouldn't perform with Feng Zhao on the same stage as long as this psychological shadow wasn't removed. He might be able to sing this time, but he might not be able to next time. Feng Zhao didn't know about Chubo's inner turmoil, but he could see that Chubo was a little afraid of him. Even though Chubo concealed it very well, Feng Zhao could still see through some minute details. Actually, Feng Zhao had the mentality of an elder. When he had performed with Chubo on the same stage, he hadn't wanted to steal the limelight. Later on, when Chubo had gotten too carried away, Feng Zhao had increased his presence. His goal was to tell Chubo that there was someone else standing here and not to get too engrossed in singing and forget what he had said before going on stage. Feng Zhao hadn't expected that he would scare Chubo to this extent. Thus, he hadn't come over immediately after the performance and had given Chubo some time to calm down. Now, it seemed like Chubo still hadn't completely calmed down. Am I that scary? Feng Zhao didn't understand. Seeing this situation, Feng Zhao said a few words before leaving. Chubo's expression had stiffened and his entire body was uncomfortable. Feng Zhao didn't plan on making things difficult for him. Luckily, Chubo hadn't used profanity during this performance. Presumably, it would be easier to apply for future concerts. Only after Feng Zhao left did Chubo relax. He said to his bodyguard and former cemetery guard, "You were right. This Fang Zhao person is really too scary. He actually made me have misconceptions." Former cemetery guard. He completely didn't understand. It was just a performance. How could he have such a deep understanding? Cliched, the internet connection wasn't too good, and it took a while for the update to come out. There were updates on the 31st. Chapter 409. The Star Cup victory ceremony wasn't broadcasted live, so many people were waiting for the media to release some news after the ceremony ended. The reporters didn't disappoint, especially those from Jinzhou. The entertainment reporters didn't even wait for the victory ceremony to end before dropping a bomb. Chu Bo knew how to mute himself. He didn't curse after getting high and even finished singing with his voice muted. The Jinzhou fans who saw this news couldn't believe it. It wasn't just them. Even the Chu family didn't believe it. After contacting Chu Yang and obtaining confirmation, the Chu family looked at Chu Bo as though he was looking at a whole new world. What kind of stimulation did he receive to learn how to mute himself? Chu Bo's mom was curious. Was it really because of the concert? Chu Bo's dad rubbed his chin as he guessed various possibilities. He knew that Chu Bo's concert applications in other continents had been blocked by the various cultural bureaus, but he didn't plan on interfering. Chu Bo's grandfather revealed a satisfied smile. "Not bad. My teachings are still effective." From the old master's point of view, the ideological education he had arranged for Chu Bo was definitely effective. Indeed, an old man like him was better at educating children. As for the many Jinzhou fans, they couldn't believe it. Impossible. Our Jinzhou's #1 flamer, nicknamed Bomber, had just caused a ruckus not too long ago. How could he have learned how to mute himself in such a short period of time? This was definitely misinformation. Rumor. When they saw the video clip released by the Star Cup organizers, the part where Chu Bo and Fang Zhao performed together was analyzed by many people. They really couldn't find any part where Chu Bo cursed. That special singing style couldn't be a fake Chu Bo either. A portion of Jinzhou fans believed that Chu Bo had really changed his style, a portion of them were still skeptical, and the remaining portion, "Don't believe it, don't believe it. Don't listen, don't listen." The organizers must have processed the video. The officials are controlling the comments. Our Jinzhou's #1 flamer can't just go offline like this. "I won't compromise." Chu Yang's manager didn't care what others thought. He was already filled with anticipation as he busied himself. Since Chu Bo was able to suppress his voice on the stage of the Star Cup victory ceremony, it would be much easier for him to discuss his future concert applications. After the performance that night, there was a short meet-and-greet session to allow Fang Zhao and the other invited celebrities to interact and chat with the students. The students raised many questions, and Fang Zhao only chose to answer a portion of them. He would tell the kids what he could, but he could not say a single word about military secrets. Other than that, Fang Zhao realized that many students were curious about his ears. He wasn't angry, but he didn't respond. He signed autographs, took photos, and exchanged contact information with the other guests. By the time Fang Zhao returned to his dormitory, it was already close to midnight. Fang Zhao told Nan Feng and the other two to go back and rest while he walked into the dormitory. At this time, the commercial streets of the imperial city were bustling with activity, brightly lit, but the inside of the Huang Art Academy was much quieter. When he opened the dormitory door, Curly Hair was already guarding the door, wagging his tail and whining like a spoiled child. Fang Zhao glanced at the automatic feeding machine. The 10 kilograms of dog food he had put in this morning had already been emptied. "You ate so much? Where's the food?" Fang Zhao lifted Curly Hair. No matter how he looked at it, he couldn't tell that this was a dog that could eat 10 kilograms of dog food a day. This was equivalent to what other people ate in a month. Fang Zhao knew that Curly Hair ate a lot in the past. Curly Hair's body was rather special, and this could all be attributed to special factors. But after returning from Planet Boo, Curly Hair's appetite seemed to have grown even bigger. Did you secretly eat too much during your time on Planet Boo and bloated your stomach? During their time on Planet Boo, Curly Hair frequently ate on the sly. Other than in the desert, he had also gone to the seaside a few times. According to Nanfeng, Curly Hair even swam in the sea. As for what he ate and how much he ate, nobody knew. Feng Zhao couldn't get an answer either. This dog only knew how to whimper. The game console was still on. Feng Zhao flipped through the game logs. Curly Hair had just been playing through the night. Nobody in the dormitory cared for him today, and nobody brought him out for a walk. Curly Hair had stayed in the dormitory and spent the rest of his time gaming besides eating, drinking, and defecating. He seemed rather spirited and seemed like he could still play through the night. The games that Feng Zhao had previously downloaded for Curly Hair had all been cleared. Now, he was playing a new level game that had been switched to after returning from Planet Boo. It was a leveling and monster-killing game. Curly Hair had been engrossed in it for the past few days. Feng Zhao patted Curly Hair's head as he switched to new dog food. Moderate gaming benefits the brain. Excessive gaming causes mental retardation. Did you forget to make reasonable arrangements again? Curly Hair drooped his ears and shrunk his neck as he averted his gaze. Feng Zhao pulled up one of his ears. Did you hear that? Curly Hair whimpered and wagged his tail with all his might. You should be glad you weren't born during the period of destruction. Feng Zhao wouldn't argue with a dog. Although he knew that Curly Hair's IQ had been constantly increasing and he could understand a lot of words, he still wouldn't treat him like a human. However, a lesson was still needed. Feng Zhao decided that he would bring Curly Hair out to run more tomorrow. Since Curly Hair was glued to the game console all day, his exercise level had to keep up. He ordered a batch of dog food from the Muzhou farm as well as some from other farms. This bit of food at home wasn't enough for Curly Hair to eat. After ordering the dog food, Feng Zhao organized the notes he was going to give to Mo Lang. As he lay in bed, he thought, 10 kilograms of dog food a day doesn't even make a sound. Curly Hair can eat no matter how much he eats. What exactly am I rearing? Feng Zhao had thought about it many times before, but he still couldn't figure it out. The world was so big that nothing was too strange. Was this the kind of thing they were talking about? Even he could be reborn. Looking at it this way, it didn't seem like much for a small dog to eat 10 kilograms a day. However, he still had to keep it a secret. It would be too scary if word got out. Since he couldn't figure it out, he didn't continue to dwell on it. However, Feng Zhao didn't sleep too well. He kept hearing someone singing in his sleep. Even though he had lived in the new era for so long, the vigilance he had honed during the period of destruction hadn't weakened. It was just that the singing hadn't triggered the alarm in Feng Zhao's brain, so he wouldn't wake up immediately. However, Feng Zhao's brain had already started to analyze the source of this sound. Why was there a song so close to him? It was within the confines of the dormitory, but there was no one else in the dormitory besides him. Feng Zhao opened his eyes abruptly and quickly became clear-headed. He took out the gun that he usually didn't use and walked out of the room silently. Based on his current hearing ability, he could tell that the sound had come from outside the room. It had stopped now, and there was only the sound of Curly Hair gaming outside the room. Was it from the game console? No, it wasn't. Feng Zhao could still differentiate between the audio from the game or the communication device and the sound of someone singing in the room. The lights outside weren't switched on. There was only the light from the game console and the screen. In the dimly lit dormitory, there was only Feng Zhao and Curly Hair, who was gaming. Feng Zhao confirmed once again that there was no one else in the dormitory. However, Feng Zhao didn't think that he was hallucinating when he heard the sound in his sleep. He didn't return to his room. Instead, he blended in with the dark surroundings. His eyes and ears captured everything in his surroundings. Any movement would trigger his sharp senses. He was like a hunter in the night, waiting for the next opportunity. Curly Hair was still immersed in the game, wearing a gaming helmet. When he reached the final boss, he would hum and growl at times. He stared at the monster on the screen and gnashed his teeth. If that monster had been real, Curly Hair would probably have rushed up and started biting. The moment he cleared the stage, fireworks bloomed on the screen. At the same time, The song that Feng Zhao had heard in his sleep rang out again. It was a little jerky and sounded weird. The pitch was also off, but Feng Zhao could tell that it was the music from the game. At this moment, it was being hummed from the mouth of a dog. Curly Hair, who had cleared yet another stage, shook his head and wagged his tail like a windmill. Just look at how pleased he was with himself. Less than 10 steps away from Curly Hair. Feng Zhao. The psychological impact was a little big. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.